that. But now everyone's kind of diffused that whole situation. Al Franken starts, he's getting himself back into the game. He's got things to say. Does anyone have any thoughts on Al Franken?
What does he have to say? Because I don't know, man. I'm like, as far as politicians go, I kind of felt like, why is he the one that was just like I don't know, man. There's a lot of shit that goes on. I don't know if I put him on the same level as most politicians in that.
I don't know about Clarence Thomas being perfect. Don't get me wrong. He's not doing anybody exactly what everybody wanted for anybody. But at the same time, Al Franken, for him to speak on it, of all people,
what is he speaking? Fill us in, because I'm not familiar with what's happening.
He said that Clarence Thomas was an ugly stain to the Supreme Court, calls it illegitimate. The court is a very divisive institution right now, and the Supreme Court to me is illegitimate, says Franken. Right. So in other words, he's not recognizing the rulings being made. He doesn't think they should be accepted as federalized common law. Whatever. He thinks that we need a new Supreme Court because this is someone that can't change because Trump put them in office, etc.
So is anyone listening to Al Franken?
I mean, that's what freaked me out, because I saw it's trending on Twitter, which means some people do. I mean, that's not what you want in the world. Where's the picture of him? That's not what you want. I mean, that is a
Stewart.
I just want to remind people this is an evil man. This is not Phil Hartman.
Is this a version of him that gave you nightmares?
So what happened to him? Did he grab some woman's ass? That's what happened. That guy kicked out.
I think it was that when people were passed out.
Oh, there we go.
There's a lot of this going on. He'd be like, people. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if this is all that was going on. I think that there weren't enough pictures, but I think enough people knew there's something weird about Al Franken, man. And he made some weird movies too. And he's from Minnesota. So he tries to exploit Minnesota, but he's not really from Minnesota, right? Didn't he move there from New York or something like that as a child? The whole thing, it's all a plant. I don't trust Al Franken. Nobody cares. Okay, what about Tucker Carlson saying if you were a flat earther, you'd be fine, which is how I feel, welcome. But if you Building 7.
Great video on Tucker, by the way.
Oh yeah, what's up, Bernie? How's it going?
The Tucker Lost tapes. It's pretty good. You should play.
He's about to get $100 million or $1 billion or whatever
Hopefully
it is.
On Rumble, and that's all I have to say.
I mean, he signed up for the Truth Social, so I know that he's involved with whatever Trump network.
I would legit love to just listen to Tucker rant about Building 7 if that's actually in store for anyone. I'm a little excited about that.
Have you watched this? This is so good. It's like
AI.
No,
I haven't watched it.
It's so straightforward, because he's just this issue of why is it that if something doesn't make any sense whatsoever to me, I'm not allowed in my position to just say so. He's like, what is this charge? He's like, so he just used Building 7 as an example, because it's an obvious example where you're just like, come on, man, that doesn't make sense, and I'm just supposed to pretend like it does.
Surely he's known about that for decades.
It's not about knowing about it, it's about not being able to talk about it. It's a weird thing to not be able to talk about, and it's also pretty blatant that when you're saying who do you work for, if it's Rupert Murdoch, and Rupert Murdoch had a bunch of money in credit card debts at Enron that were completely erased, so they had this international corporate debt jubilee in Building 7, it makes him feel complicit, right? I think that's what he's thinking. He's stuck in this loop where he can't talk about his boss.
These guys they're all mainstream. Come on, mainstream news hosts. They get replaced all the time. They're all puppets. I mean, by now, people still think these people are real game changers.
Right. Well, speaking on this topic, I just listened to this great interview. I can't believe I've never heard from Hunter S. Thompson from 2002, where I think it was maybe an Australian interview where he's talking about 9/11, and I mean, I remember that he had things to say, but there's the letter the day of or whatever that he wrote about, basically predicting war with Iraq. I think he names Afghanistan. He says there's, we're not going to even have clear lines on who the enemies even are anymore. It's just going to be total madness. But, he went on this interview and he's talking about the book that he's working on, which he says relates to 9/11. Well, I listened to this interview and I'm like, wow, that was amazing the way and it's so relatable to stuff today with the suppression of he was saying I know journalists at the time in 2002 that feel the same way I do, but they don't feel like they can write on it because they know they'll just be attacked like crazy, like you're not patriotic or whatever you want to call it. You know, there's this whole lockstep that was occurring at that time. And it sounds like you could just fill in the words, like instead of 9/11, it could be like COVID-19 really easily. And the interview would still follow the exact same way, you know. But I get this book because I'm like, I never read Kingdom of Fear, so I'm going to order a paperback of the book. I get the book, I look through it, almost nothing about 9/11. And the one thing that I found was like, from somebody, it was like a letter from somebody else mentioning 9/11. So it's like a lot of stuff from like 1994, 1996, even 1999. I'm like, he said in the interview, I'm working on a book about 9/11 and the state of the country and all this stuff. And as far as I can tell, you know, call me a conspiracy theorist, but it sure looks like they heavily edited the book and kind of made this Frankenstein of different pieces of writing that he had done that hadn't been officially published in a book yet. And we're just like, oh, here's the new Hunter S. Thompson book. And
whatever he actually had. Oh, that's
horrible.
So like one of those damn Tupac albums.
Yeah,
dude, it's one of those things where somebody has a shit ton of guns. And then they, you know, their head gets blown off. There was no witnesses. You know, his wife was on the property. She heard the shot, but it's like, you know, I'm not. But it's
somebody has a thing of like,
William Burroughs reference.
Go this way or that way.
Right.
You know.
Okay. Right. Yeah. Totally.
Easy
there you
way
go.
or hard
Was
way.
that it? Was I was just asked to do the Willem Tell routine, and next thing I know, I'm not here to talk about it. But
I feel like that's also, you know, early and late Kubrick. But then, you know, the 9/11 thing is interesting that he brings that up again, because 9/11 is the Back to the Future 9/11 is this turning point that's predicting taking all of our energy, focusing it on a certain point, and then maneuvering it towards, aiming it towards something unrelated. And of course, it's Iraq, right? So we needed Iraq, we wanted Iraq, or at least the neoconservatives felt that it was like this occult value of Iraq. I mean, Hobby Lobby kind of taking what was the Epic of Gilgamesh or whatever the old tablets were. There's more to their need to aim it that direction, but we're not supposed to look at it. We're supposed to just look at it as this monolith that's knocked down. And it's weird because it's become so part of our culture. 9/11 is so ambiguously part of our culture, but there are tons of people that are 20 years old, you know, and older, that can drink, that have been born after September 11th. They're born into this world, which is crazy, right? Like, because they have no idea what it was like before.
Well, I think 9/11 was like our generation's JFK, where people would be like, oh, I remember what I was when I heard the towers fell. And then the newer generation that comes after that, I think they're more about like the outbreak. You know what I mean? Like, I remember where I was at on Christmas when I found out, and that slow sort of precipitation. But I think it's a little bit different because the JFK assassination and 9/11 were like very specific, immediate events that happened that day, and everyone just kind of had this collective traumatic programming applied to them. Whereas the latter, it's been more of like this slow process where you almost had to like buy into it and then decide how bad it really was. Whereas these events, you didn't have to guess how bad those events were.
Right. Well, check this out. At this point, or I should say, in 2020, your relationship to what you think about 9/11 was like the barometer or whatever for how you're going to relate to COVID-19. So like, if you did not trust the official narrative of 9/11, the more you distrusted that, the less likely you were to fall in line with, you know, the general ideology that emerged around how best to deal with the event. Because in both cases, you have something that you can acknowledge. You're like, you know, different people will argue differently, but like, you're like, here, okay, so we people are dying, okay, we can at least say that, even if they're dying from respirators that they shouldn't be on or whatever. There's like a bad fucking flu season, and it's like, this is happening one way or the other. These people died in these towers one way or the other. It's all the opportunism or whatever you want, the greed and everything that enshrouds and surrounds that event. That's like a fucking parasite. And so it's like, there's the thing in itself is bad enough, but everything else is another matter. And so you get what I'm saying with that? Yeah.
So I was listening, and like myself watching it in grade 11 when it happened, and like the towers just hitting, and just like them all coming down and being like, no, physics, that's impossible what we just saw there. And from that point, it was like, it just shattered the reality of, hey, our government's trying to kill us, or someone is, or like it's an inside job as far as I was concerned.
Right. It's kind of the ultimate litmus test, isn't it? Because it's something that really feels like it defies the physics. And you're just like, and if you say it, then it's like, am I allowed? What's that?
Sorry, I was in math class and I was just sort of thinking about this, that my teacher at the time, he had a conspicuously he had the Albert Einstein hair, like white, kind of poofy, and then Coke bottle glasses. He just looked like a tall, skinny Albert Einstein. So the first time I saw the footage of the towers collapsing it was like the first thing I knew about anything that had gone on. We were just in class, and he came in and he turned on the TV, and as
He's
the
like,
image,
"Great Scott!"
the image faded in of the towers just collapsing, and then he just like turned it right off. I was like, now I'm thinking, it was like, okay, Einstein, physics is bad. Physics goes haywire on 9/11, and
right. Well, Joe makes a really good point in this video because he points out that this is the most viewed footage that in history globally. More people watch those two towers be destroyed than any other event, including the moon landing or whatever you want to point at. And so it's like that was that just in terms of consciousness, like that was a global zeroing in on what was absolutely symbolic and very real at the same time.
Also, if we went back 30 years, like if Back to the Future was made today, it would be about going back to 1991, 1993. You know, like around the first twin tower attacks,
right?
Power bombing attacks. So
this goes back to stop the Gulf War.
This is a really surreal event for me because I didn't get to experience it. I was in boot camp on doing like drills when this all happened, and we didn't find out about it for at least 2 weeks. I think
PA Illuminati confirmed working on the underground tower bombs. Is that what just happened here?
But I just remember that it was like someone's parents had sent one of the other people that was on my flight, and they snuck in like a newspaper article, and all of a sudden you just saw this ripple of people like, no way, what is this? And they thought it was a prank at first, and then eventually, you know, it spread far enough that all the TIs had to bring all the different troops in and say, hey, there's been an attack on the country. We didn't want you guys to start freaking out because like you just joined the military and, you know, maybe there's like a war coming and that like we want you to focus on your training. But it's one of those things where when everyone says, you know, where were you for all these like big traumatic events? Like, I mean, I was just like doing drill marches. And when I came back out, the whole country's like, thank you for your service. Everyone's super patriotic and everyone's like getting along or pretending to get along. And I was like, you know, nothing had changed for me. Like I went in and I came back out 6 weeks later and the world hadn't gone through that big transformation because I had
morale boosters. I mean, I know we've talked about it, but for anyone who doesn't remember, and just because BurnEye's here, it's a shout out to all of Canada. If Day is one of my favorite subjects. Just the idea that the Canadians thought, well, I mean, the British thought, how are we going to get the Canadians to care about the war? Because we need to not just get Canadian money, we need to start conscripting and forcing Canadians to fight for this island called England. That is crazy. How do you do it? So what you did
when half of us is French too.
Well, that helped actually, I think, ironically. But in this particular circumstance, they had a fake Nazi invasion of Canada. And they took over and they struck out names and they wrote the Winnipeg Lugenblatt and they straight up removed Canadian money and they replaced it with occupation Reichmarks. I mean, they did the whole thing, which seems really to the point of how could they have faked all of this? It almost feels like, are we covering that they actually invaded and this is not fake? But no,
I just recently made a post. Yesterday I made a post about you know, look at these conservative talk shows, like, and you look at what's his name, Crowder. He's Canadian. And then Vice went bankrupt yesterday. Did you know that?
Right.
Vice?
Yeah, we're gonna get into Vice. Yeah, I'm sorry for
Vice is founded by Canadians.
Yeah.
Why do we have a bunch of Canadians get on air and say America is gonna fall?
You better get on MK Canada on
69% government funded. Okay.
Yeah, this is what I'm trying to say. I'm saying these are Commonwealth. They work with England. And,
for sure.
And now we got a new King Charles on get on the throne. We talk about 9/11 all you want, but
they just passed C11 too. So C11 is a new bill that's going to force Canadians to watch content made by Canadians. It's like FUBU or something, like Fuku. I don't know how the words.
Okay, but can I get to my point real quick?
Yeah, sorry.
I'm just trying to say that everybody's talking about 9/11, a false flag, inside job and all that. Nobody's looking outside the box where they say, "What about
Canada? Do you think blame Canada?"
No, I'm talking about Rothschild. When we're talking about, I don't want to get this episode off the air, but I'm saying that people don't look at the rumors of who's controlling
C11,
behind the
September
screen.
11. I kind of see it. You know, there could be something there.
I noticed
you don't wanna talk about it, that's fine.
they scheduled the coronation of King Charles, or I guess that's what
King
it is.
Charles is going to get on throne
on May
on
6th. May 6th is 237 days after 9/11. So
Ooh, there you
people
go.
were asking about on Facebook why that day. It's like, oh well, that's why probably.
Yeah.
You know, there's going to be a whole lot of bad stuff coming up. You know, we're talking about the king. This king, now he's moving out. That, what is that stone that he just took out? The stone from Scotland. The stone. Yeah. That
the
thing
stone
is
of scone, right?
Yeah, I saw Eric Idle tweeting on this, and I was cracking up about it because he's just like, you know, what do they call it? It's like a sacred stone or whatever.
Yeah,
so
it was
like,
a scone stone is in Scotland, but it's supposed to be from the time of Jacob's ladder, right? So when Jacob put his head down on a stone, and then he saw angels descending upon a golden ladder, it's supposed to be the scone stone, and that's why the queen and they can get coronated on the scones, the stone of scone.
Sure.
It's checkerboard floors.
Right.
And the stone originated from Syria, brought back from the Crusade.
Well, some of these Tartarian fanatics will say that maybe like the biblical stories happen in Scotland, which is a whole other thing that's kind of interesting about Freemasonry. But the stone in the 70s, someone tried to take it and they dropped it in the parking lot and chipped a bit of it off, and it got lost because it was a gravel driveway. And this is also an official historical story. So somebody probably stole that, also like a chipped bit of this scone stone in the 70s.
Can I just say, Eddie, that when we're talking about 9/11, like for me, like it's like I see the template of what went on with 9/11, like as far as like beyond like just on so many different levels, where you have something that's so symbolic and at the same time like a mass tragedy, sacrifice, whatever. It's like it's so charged. Like it's not just like that event is a ripple event, which it is. It's that same formula that went into that with all those particular dynamics reoccurs and reoccurs again. And so like the best way I could put it is it's like Tisha B'Av for the world in this case. So it's like something at one time that would have affected one region. At this point is now like a global event, you know. So
I know what you mean, but
you have a fanboy claiming
claiming
that you are a government agent, and apparently I, not Jeremy Reese, traveled to Washington recently and also accused of being Illuminati. So
let me answer what David was saying.
Thanks.
What I'm trying, like David. So here's why when people start talking about 9/11, I kind of shut up because I just realized nobody really looks outside the box anymore. They want to loop in the same thought, the same inside job, Bush and the military industrial complex and all that. But people don't look at this is a financial engineering of the crash of America. And ritually, yes, there's a lot of ritual aspect to this whole.
It's true. Like it seems like it would have mattered more if it happened in Toronto. Like
but yeah, have you guys seen this documentary? This is kind of like an underground documentary. It's called Ring of Power. Have you heard the Empire of the City? Okay,
no.
It's still on YouTube, but you got to really look it up because otherwise there's no way you can search it through you can Ring of Power, Empire of City. So I've made several posts already about during 9/11. There's a possibility that the Millennium Hotel, right?
The old one. Yeah, I've seen that.
Sure.
Yeah, I made a post basically based on this documentary that the Rothschild family, the Evelyn, the Rothschild and his wife, Forrester, they have a front row seat sitting in the Millennium Hotel watching the whole thing come down. And this documentary basically was the first one that actually opened my mind about the whole thing. It's like, what is this whole, 9/11, Building 7, burning down all the Secret Service documents and all that, but it's beyond that. We're talking about a financial engineering and financial destruction of America. So and you see this whole thing. Yeah, that's exactly like the point of view of that couple having a front row seat. So
I think another part of that 9/11 too was just how far can they push? Like how obvious can we be and people still buy it? To just keep like edging that line forward.
Dude, speaking of people buying stuff at ridiculous levels, I know I'm going there. Costco selling Bud Light at 41 cents a can. I mean,
ew.
You can't give the stuff away.
They're at that point. Bevmo has been trying to give it away to boost points, and no one's taking it. And I mean, you know, not to kick a dead horse that's on the ground.
Kick a dead unicorn in this case.
Yeah, and to take the horn and to do stuff with it. But this guy,
he's no longer. It's losing the number one, the first place. It's no longer the most favorite beer in America. There's an article.
Right, but I mean, Dylan Mulvaney isn't representative of like whatever class of people. Like that's the problem with influencers, man. Is that you put these people like as though they're the forefront of something just because they have a platform that a lot of people are paying attention to. A lot of those people that are subscribed do it not because they're fans. I mean, they're doing it because it's so outrageous, So yeah,
gotta get to the Anheuser-Busch Ganymedes painting. How far do I have to go to get there? Is it gonna even happen? Oh man!
Nope, it was at the very end.
Oh, it was.
Yeah, it was the very last one.
I just gave up. Where was it? Oh, there you go. Yeah, Anheuser-Busch, because it'll turn you into Zeus's cupbearer, or if you're into Zeus's cupbearer, you want to drink. I like bearer because it's just cup bearer. That's what it's.
Well, isn't it interesting anyway with the bald eagle, like as an American symbol, supposedly be deriving from the phoenix, and then you have this Zeus connection here with like Anheuser-Busch. Like it's kind of trippy.
I think bald eagle is really symbolizing an old man, dirty old man. Bald and white hair.
Yeah, isn't it? It's kind of hawk, right?
Like death, Like
I just think of the one from the Muppets.
I mean, it's just weird that they thought this was going to make a lot of people want to buy beer, though. It's kind of a strange ad placement. I don't know. That guy, though, for real. All right.
Do you know when the actual campaign came out? I wonder if there's any correlation to when they brought the Mulvaney sort of ads out. If it's like every 50 years, every 100 years.
Yeah.
That could be a thing. Yeah. Let's see. Campaign, anything? I don't know. I'd have to dig a while.
Well, we can dig into that. That'll be an interesting one. I like this topic.
For sure. 1906. 1906. Budweiser, maybe earlier though. I don't know.
That's the year of the San Francisco earthquake.
I bet you what we have to do 1892. So it goes back 1892. So we're gonna have to look it up. But I get the feeling if we use like Ngrims or NLGrims or whatever on Wiki on Google, we could probably figure out what the earliest mention of Ganymede and Budweiser at the same time.
It's still, over 100 years they've been doing it, so that's interesting.
Yeah. So it's been the gay beer forever, which is pretty impressive. You have to admit. I don't know.
Hey, I'd like to speak to one of the comments really quick. Somebody said that nobody died in the towers on 9/11. I'd say I don't believe that that's true, but I do know that it's true that a lot of Israelis got a heads up not to go to work that day or even that week, and that people did get a heads up. It's kind of similar to the stuff you'll find with the Titanic, where certain people were told don't go on that boat. That shit happens.
God, I could rant about the Titanic for a minute because I watched the Titanic recently.
Also, the Hershey family was one of those. The Hershey's.
The heart of a woman is filled with secrets like the ocean. John Burt.
The Astors did not get the call. The Astors never got the call.
Oh my God. Should we talk about the Titanic instead of Vice? I don't think anyone really cares about Vice. We can get into Vice, but should we just get it over with?
Aren't they the same thing?
Titanic all day.
Corporate wants to know if there's a difference between these two pictures, Titanic and Vice. The 9/11 Commission report and Helter Skelter.
Vice talks a lot about politics and psychedelics. Isn't that kind of weird? They talk
like
a lot about psychedelics and mind control.
Well, Vice used to be pretty cool, if I'm not mistaken. It was in the early days, it was an authentically interesting.
I think Eddie means isn't that conspicuous for like a CIA finance mind control company that they talk about military secrets?
It depends on when it was, if it was co-opted, if it was like created for that purpose.
You're right about what you know, right? So if the CIA is going to fund it,
like the fact that they got to go to Iran early on.
Go back to what's the co-founder's name? Gavin. What's his name? Gavin McGinnis. Look at Gavin McGinnis at the night January
6th.
Yeah, that's my dad's birthday actually.
Wow, my dad's is July 4th. That seems really familiar and similar.
Look at it. I'm going back to that again. Look at his followers. They're all wearing they're all wearing the Talima.
You can say what you want about him. He is Scottish, so he's got that going for him.
Is there a wider picture of that one where you can see all his followers are wearing the unicorns over her Instagram?
Where's the wide one?
Oh, they're just like they got a Thelema edge. Are they?
That's right.
Do they?
That's right.
These guys are magicians, okay?
No, I mean, are the Proud Boys connected to the OTO? Is there an actual Thelema connection, or are they just AA?
I think some of them are connected, but not all of them are. Like the Proud Boys itself isn't, but I'm sure like if you're into joining men's clubs in the urban zones of New York City, I mean, this is something, and he's Scottish, right? So this is like what his father probably did was join a Scottish men's lodge. Like they have lodges, that's kind of a practical thing.
So technically if they were adherents to Liber Oz, that would mean that they're of the opinion that basically people have the right to do whatever they want, but if somebody tries to take away those rights to do whatever you want, you have the right to kill that person.
That's his whole vibe, and he shoved a dildo up his own rectum to prove it, I think.
Here, I just uploaded a picture.
Does anyone here have enough conviction to do that tonight on a topic they care about?
You know what I mean? But again, who's Scottish enough to really try?
And speaking of which,
that's the guy. I was trying to find this picture, and they cropped it. You see, I was just looking at it, and it was cropped in such a
9/11, 93, flight 93.
Yeah, but I think that's just because he's a dedicated kind of guy. Like this, not just Gavin, but his Proud Boy. All these guys, they're kind of they're between in and vol celibate. You know what I mean? Like some of them have relationships. I think they're emotionally frustrated a lot of the time. Not everybody.
Not diagram on MAGA and Thelema.
That's not
right.
Is this like are we looking at a unicorn right now?
Yeah, no. MAGA Magus. Like there seems to be something to that.
In the Church of Satan, MAGA is the warlock degree, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right. The Church of Satan, MAGA. Right? That's
right. But if you're talking about the Church of Satan, or are you talking about Anton LaVey, the Satanic Church?
Yeah,
are you talking about because they're two very different things apparently. So like and
look it up. Yeah,
the Satanic Temple and the Church of Satan are the two very different things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, right. I mean, no, the Satanic Temple came in like only a few years ago. But Andres, look up MAGA and then a warlock. Look it up.
I like how we just went right into manga.
That's how I spell warlock.
right.
WAR.
MAGA.
Okay.
Yeah.
This
no, not picture, but the list. You see the website that. See, where is this? Magus.
Magus
is a degree below MAGA. Oh my god!
This is Marvel. Jesus Christ. They're all just trying to mess with the search. This is Marvel characters. There's so many of them now. They just keep putting more out just to deviate Google.
No idea. I don't know.
Here you go. I got it. Yeah, I found the link. Oh wait, hold on. I'm sending you the link. There you go. Okay, well, 1 second. Send it down. See, and also, speaking of which,
I mean, January 6th did have it a shaman
anybody
want
to talk about the Satan Con in Boston over the weekend?
Satan Con? Okay.
Satan Con.
What the fuck is wrong with people? Who put the time in that?
Like, the greatest con Satan ever pulled happened in.
Look at like some dark gothic dungeon porn.
Right. So here are the degrees of Satanism. So Satanism has degrees like Freemasonry. I mean, come on. Registered member, active member, witch, warlock, priest, priestess, magister,
witch warlock, or a witch warlock.
Magus. Right. So 5th degree is a MAGA or Magus.
Warlock. Mm-hmm. So it's
well, the Satanism for you, a little satanic education. Wait, but Satan Con, now I'm curious. Really? This had to exist. Boston Satan Con goers.
Calgary this weekend. And in Boston, you have Satan Con.
Shred Bible, pro-cop flag during open ritual hails. Okay, a group of Satanists cheered as 2 leaders opened Satan Con.
I made several posts.
I mean, this is the thing. I mean, Satanism itself is separate. This seems like a aesthetic choice.
I love their photo selection of just the thin blue line flag just like laying on the ground, like to just
I love the Australian money. I don't know what you're saying, but I appreciate it. I can't speak Australian.
I want to ask maybe Thomas can answer this. Is that because the Satanic Temple, they sued Netflix, the Sabrina, right? The Sabrina show, because they showed
they're the litigious branch. Like if you were to compare them, they're like the ones that lawyer up, and I think it's more like antagonistic in that way.
Yeah, but this was. I feel like there was a. Okay, so where's the thing? Satanic. Okay. I think what happened was that Netflix wanted to give money to the Satanists, and this was the easiest way to do it. Because they're $50 million that they wanted to give the Church of Satan, and so the best way to do it was to say, "Oh, whoops, we have to now." You know, what
Andreas, I like the way you think.
Yeah, man.
That's pretty good.
I'm on board, dude. I'm on board.
Because they made the Sabrina show. You know, I mean, it was
Right, but the thing is that that's gonzo because it's something that like might as well be true. Like whether it's true or isn't true, it's like for all intents and purposes, Netflix wanted to donate to the Church of Satan. That makes total sense.
I mean, the settling. What's a settlement?
Or the
right?
Temple of Satan, whatever the fuck.
Like, no, this is fine. We won't fight.
Was it Sabrina? Real quick, Sabrina, played by Kiernan Shipka, who was
from Mad Men.
Yeah, the daughter of Mad Men. She was born, if I'm not mistaken, 666 days before 9/11. So,
wow.
Oh, she's the one reading Rosemary's
By the
Baby.
way, for you guys watching
in
for the first
Mad Men,
time,
right?
Alex is not mistaken.
Are you you're talking about the daughter in?
Oh, not quite.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Oh, wow.
It's close, but it's not quite.
What? Oh,
it's like 6. I'll check. It might be a little bit more, but anyway, it's close.
We'll take it. I'm pretty sure it's right up there. And if it's not, it's a better number, like 661 or something. It always is. But the show was pretty illuminated. You know, there's a lot of things about it that they took out the sitcom and then they just put in esoteric symbolism. I thought that was pretty nice. And it felt like Netflix was going a more interesting direction with this by trying to supplant occult symbolism in front of people, right? I mean, because people were familiar with Sabrina, so to take Sabrina and to spin it into something so sincere and stoic, I don't know. I thought it was interesting.
So you got a $5 super chat.
Oh yeah, sorry. Kent Woods, ex-OTO member, wrote. Thank you, Kent. Piece. By the way, Kent, we're gonna do a show soon. Wrote a piece about leaving the OTO because of the ties to the far right. Matthew Leon.
I want to read that piece.
Yeah, send us the link in the Discord. Kent, I'll send you this also if you have things to say on the subject. So I'm meaning to get you involved.
Okay. Well, I just want to say that I think Thomas probably raised it in our exchange in the email, but the show has the Baphomet without breasts, and Eliphas
Eliphas Levi's
Eliphas Levi, his has breasts, right? So it's an androgynous figure, whereas in the Satanic Temple. And also in Sabrina, they have the same type of.
So you're saying really they could have won it? See, I think that proves my point, right? They're like, no, this is a completely different goat deity.
Yeah,
the star's upside down, the chest is different. I mean,
right, but how is either of these? No, it just looks like the devil card from the Rider-Waite deck. We were just discussing this, and
the Rider-Waite deck is a hermaphrodite, no?
Right? It also has breasts too.
Right, let's look at it and let's.
No, he looks like a bro.
He does. Oh, he has man boobs. Sorry.
Yeah, that's definitely
right. But the point is, when you're talking about the copyright of the freaking thing, how different is this? Like, what?
That's even more similar, right?
Right. Yeah. And we could look at Marseille Tarot too. It's almost the same freaking thing. It's got the two. Oh, come on. We're getting ridiculous.
And I got to point out the Washington statue that's at the Smithsonian, I believe, that has the exact same pose. It's just for good measure. I think it just needs to be compared since we just saw that same pose over and over.
Statue. I love that statue, by the way. This is my favorite statue of George Washington. It was a privilege to live in Maryland, in DC. This is a goal I've always had, was just to see the statue and to see it like a few times and just sit there. I mean, honestly, I always like going to the Rodin's Poet in Paris. This tops it. This is the better statue.
Excuse my ignorance, but what are they called? The apotheosis of Washington or something like that?
Yeah,
what is it?
No, that's Rotunda. That's the painting. That's
right. But isn't it related? Like, doesn't he have his arm up like that? Or am I tripping? Isn't it somehow?
Okay. Before you change the picture, can't you see where the sword is pointing at?
Pointed down.
No. The sword is pointing at his heart, right?
Oh, the other side. Okay.
But I'm saying that there's some kind of relevancy with Jesus, right?
Well, when you hand a sword
to destiny, piercing the same spot.
When you hand a knife or a sword to someone, you're supposed to hand it to them the other direction, like that. You know, sword etiquette.
Yeah, but that's kind of where Jesus was pierced by the Longinus, right?
Oh yeah.
Hey, Andreas, what was that thing we've looked at it together before a long time ago? There's like the American religion thing that's like how to explain that? What is the operative word that you like where government itself is itself like a religion? Like the it's hard to explain that. It's kind of meta. Do you remember what I'm trying to fucking say?
I don't know. To believe in America.
Theostatism?
No, yeah, there's like an actual like it's
You
like
believe the government's watching you and keeping you
it's like
safe?
yeah, there's a theory of like when like the apotheosis of George Washington, for example, where there's this kind of deitizing of the presidents, and like that this whole thing goes back to like another religion that's like its own kind of thing. What the hell? What is that called? We found it before. I just
That's
can't
a
remember.
huge. This is really what it is, a statism, because in general, people believe that through the state we can remove the impurities of the individual, and we'll get the people who are without sin, because the persons will only act in their best, and so together we'll create this divine machine, this Deus ex machina that comes out of existence.
It seemed to be the same mission statement. I was reading somebody posted yesterday. On the May 1st, of course, that's the founding of the Bavarian Illuminati, right? So,
of course.
So they said the mission statement is to get rid of all religions and to create a new holy. And I'm like, wait a second. You said get rid of all religion, but you know what I'm saying? It's like these people, they want to create their own new religion, which is I don't know. I just think this comes.
Well, this is relevant, and I'm sorry we didn't bring this up as like a more important talking point. But happy anniversary to the Illuminati, because it has been it's been a long time coming. What do you guys think, though? You're saying you felt like it's like a religion. How do you think it's like a religion, Eddie?
Well, another interesting. Before I get to that, is that we know we're hitting the Pluto return of America, right? 246 years, right? So it's the same year as the Illuminati. So somebody actually brought up the point that if it's the end of America right now, the end of an age of America, which the return of Pluto signifies, wouldn't it do the same thing to the Bavarian Illuminati?
Saturnalia.
Yeah, so I just think that, but back to the religion thing, is basically saying that's what their original mission statement say. These are not evildoers. These are not secret plotting against the world. But basically, they want to get rid of the world of all religions, infiltrate all. Like the Jesuits and all these people. They're all trying to, what's the word? God, I forgot it. I'm
inspire?
No, not inspired, but basically they want to overthrow all the established, control mechanism.
I think they want to create a system that people want to be a part of. Like the Jesuits want everyone to want to be altar boys, because once everyone's an altar boy, then they become a father, and then you've got nuns, and it just seems really fun because no one has any responsibilities except for all the responsibility of the church. It's really, if you look at being a priest, it doesn't sound really great, but if you look at being a really corrupt priest, it sounds amazing, doesn't it? Because you get to be like a gangster in Italy with gold and cocaine, and it's a very different kind of priest once you start realizing what most priests get to be if they really try.
Hey, Andreas, the words I was looking for was American civil religion, and if you go into the private chat, I shared the wiki for it.
Very good. Wait, I got there again. That's right. We did do this. I love this. Yeah. The sociological theory that a non-sectarian quasi-religious faith exists within the United States with sacred symbols drawn from national history. Yeah, and it's totally fabricated on purpose. This is the intention of Strauss,
right?
Straussian neoconservatives who want people. This is why the show Gunsmoke exists, right? So that people.
What is the definition of apotheosis?
Apotheosis. Yeah, I was pronouncing it wrong. My apologies.
Sorry, apotheosis.
Sound like a moron over here.
Divination or deification.
Yeah.
Hey, Kent made it in. What's up, Kent?
So all this talk about separating the church and state. I mean, just from that painting itself, you're turning. Okay. So watching this, say, "Oh, I don't want to become the emperor of America. I want to become God of America."
Right. You want to become a god. Want to start a trend where it's possible for people to become gods. Yep. And that's what it used to be like in Rome. And I think that's also
Greece,
so they're thinking we'll become so much more beyond what a normal person's life was, because we'll become so impactful to the existence of everyone else.
That's
as humans.
That's the whole context of the 100-Year War in Judea, is that everywhere the Romans went, they were getting people to bow to Vespasian and Titus, his son Caesar, as gods. And so like they'd erect a statue of them in the center of everything, and kind of like, set up these kind of, build these cities on top of what was there and incorporate whatever they had into themselves. But the people would bow, and so they'd submit. And so supposedly the story goes is that when they got to Judea, the people didn't submit as easily, and they likened them to goats because they were so stubborn, because they wouldn't just go with the program, even if it meant being sacrificed in various ways, or treated in various ways. And so they put up with a lot of shit. We don't actually know what those people were really like, because we have very little historical evidence to go on. It's like, who is it? Bill O'Reilly wrote these books, like killing different people. He's like killing Lincoln and killing Kennedy.
The bottom line is George Washington wanted to be
killing-
remembered in a pink dress.
and then right, and then killing Jesus. And when you look in the back of freaking Killing Jesus by Bill O'Reilly, when he lists his sources, it says the Bible and other sources. And I would love to know what those other sources were for his Killing Jesus book. But from what I gather, what we got to go on, we don't really know what those people were like. Yeah.
Killing of the Sacred King.
I mean, okay, but looking at the idea of George Washington's apotheosis, that he's becoming a god, like a Muhammad character, and being guarded, and the gods here. What do we got? Poseidon, probably, or no?
Yeah,
Poseidon, yeah.
Neptune or whatever. Is it Roman?
We talked about how Poseidon wasn't originally of the sea, right? So that's
right. Yeah, he was given his trident before he was assigned the sea, and it probably came as like a breakup of Zeus, as Zeus kind of like dissolved into a few different people.
And this is Mercury. I can't see because he's upside down, but
that's absolutely Mercury. Yes.
Yep, he's got a caduceus.
Yeah. The caduceus would be a cool thing to say more often.
I think you actually say that that's Hermes. Are we looking at Roman or Greek symbolism right here? I can't. I'm being stupid right now.
It's American.
Thank you.
Is there any like tree of life, the Kabbalistic arrangement here? Because we know Neptune is Keter, right?
You've seen this with the geometry laid out into it. How all these points, like look at the figures. It's actually six points that surround the seventh point. So
the God of War.
Right. So the point in the center is a no point, right? That's like Shabbat. So you say the idea, of the week, in Judaism is that you're actually like more than just circling, you're actually kind of like spiraling around the seventh point, which is kind of like not really a point, like it's like a space. So, it's kind of trippy in that way. So.
I always love when they make like the fun separates. Like the, I wonder if there's a George Washington or like a, July 4th one, like a patriotic one.
A patriotic tree of life.
Yeah, patriotic Sephiroth. Let's see if I can.
Sephiroth. Maybe you should type
have you guys ever done a dive on Final Fantasy VII in the Sephiroth and the name of that guy?
A little bit. It's the only thing I know about Final Fantasy at all.
Expand, because Final Fantasy blows my mind. It's such a fever dream, and it's amazing. Like, so I remember it. I think I have talked about how I saw the Final Fantasy movie, the original one in 1999, and I realized it's all about Scientology, because you've got Buscemi sitting there, and they're like explaining to him how the Thetans are taking over people's bodies, and these ghosts are taking over the world. He's like, this is making a weird kind of sense. And as soon as I realized it didn't make any sense, and Buscemi said that, I knew it was Scientology. What were you saying? Sorry.
No, I think.
Oh, you were going to work on this, right?
Yeah, I almost got to go to Honolulu, but I didn't sign the contract, so they
wouldn't trust you.
Final Fantasy VIII is my favorite in terms of the story and the sync stuff around it. It's just like all about. It's a really weird story that takes 80 hours to unfold, but
they all do that.
It's really interesting. It's about it involves time, like witches and the bleeding from the moon, and like it's really Gnostic and like this but filtered through the Japanese anime kind of aesthetic.
It's pretty real. That's the thing. I feel like the most relatable thing to what I believe is actually going on in the veiled part of our reality. Final Fantasy seems to get it to some degree, and like personal demons.
Are there any other video games you guys think are like revealing all sorts of interesting?
Yeah, that one with David Bowie. What was that called? Where David Bowie?
David Bowie video game?
The Omicron game on the Dreamcast.
Yeah. What was that? The Nomad
I don't know
Soul.
how much that really reveals. But...
Oh man, what don't you remember what he says? He has like some lines he says.
Oh yeah, dude. No, this shit's super loaded. That's why I named it. Yeah. Or not named it, but pointed at it.
Here you are, the stranger in Omicron, conqueror of demons. You've told me so much of your exploits. You're not the first video game player to get by this dimension. And yeah, they talk about like a virus and how like a vaccine destroyed it, and it was took away their magical power or something like that, right? locked in the cage. It's very Scientology until they get to the vaccine part.
Is this on PlayStation? What is this?
It's Dreamcast.
Dreamcast. Yeah.
Oh, Dreamcast.
Which is all the more like make it for something that nobody has access to that Microsoft
Right.
gives to
Yeah,
people.
that's the thing.
There's a game that piques my interest because it's called the Stanley Parable, which is like,
Oh yeah.
it's hard to describe. It's like it's a first person game where it's very meta, like you're making choices, and then there's a narrator that's narrating your choices as you make them, and you open up and you're in room 420 or whatever, or 429 or something, and you get the secret ending, and it's this bizarre baby monolith thing, and it's fascinating. I recommend you check it out.
Speaking of monolith, I mean, I'm sorry, I don't want to change the topic, but they just discovered there's a huge structure on the moon. It's like it really reminds me of the monolith.
It appears
you
it's been
can't
deliberately buried.
you can't just say there's a huge structure on the moon and not expect it to change the subject. Which one? Where is this moon structure?
Go to Twitter. Your
Twitter.
It's like my fifth post from the top. Let's see.
Let's see here.
It's just
down past the moon. No.
It's coming up. Coming.
We're going to cover that too at some point.
Oh, yeah.
There we go. Scientists have found an enormous structure that weighs 2.18 billion kilograms. Alex, run with the numbers here. And stretches for more than 300 kilometers and 186 miles in depth under the surface of the moon.
I click on the article and it'll tell more. I don't
look at the picture first. I'm a picture guy. Look at this. Oh yeah,
look
how you
there
put
it is.
2001 there. You know,
the one in the middle. Yeah.
So this is where it's at, of course. And where does this? Chinese Chang'e 4. Doesn't that mean rabbit? Is that the thing, right?
Well, then the Chang'e is the princess who flew to the moon.
Princess with the rabbits. That's right.
Yeah, she met with a rabbit, a palace full of white rabbits.
Why is Disney not making better movies about this? I think
What's
that
the whole thing? There's a whole rabbit on the moon thing from Anthropology.
You mean Bugs Bunny and when he goes to the moon?
No. Well, that too, but
well, no. The mythology of Chinese mythology of the is that Chang'e, she's the princess who married this emperor who was a hero but became a tyrant. He was a hero because he shot down 9 suns. Because the sky all of a sudden appeared 10 suns and was burning scorching the earth. So the then emperor asked some hero to shoot down, to cool the planet down. So he shot down 9 of the suns that fell down turned into black crows. So he became the hero, and then later on he became the emperor and married this Chang'e. Chang'e is the name of the first Chinese rocket that flew to the moon, if you know that.
Well, what's weird also is that the Veda talks about having other sun disks or moons, essentially black moons, and that they are missing in our sky for the most part, except for sometimes when we have an eclipse that has to do with one of the other disks in the sky. So that's kind of interesting, the idea that there's a point when it explains that they basically disappear because it's changing the weather too much.
Okay. Well, actually, let me just finish her story real quick.
Yeah.
Because so she was dealing with a tyrannical husband. So that guy wanted to live forever. So it goes with the same story. A lot of the emperor want to live forever. So they always looking into an elixir of fountain of youth, right? So she ended up swallowing it. And she ended up dying. I mean, she basically got killed by the drink.
I got to point out the rabbit adrenochrome connection here, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so she flew to the moon, all the way to the moon, which kind of reminds me of the Stanford Research Institute. They're tracking people going to the moon. The souls fly to the moon. So she ended up on the moon, and then the only companion she had was in the palace, was inhabited by all these rabbits, and they're all making medicine. These rabbits were not just
making adrenochrome medicine, man.
Yeah, something.
Dude, there's something here, man. It just keeps popping up too much to not be more than a coincidence to me.
Right. Well, I mean, into the OTO stuff, because Kent got here. Kent, thank you for making it. Can you hear us? And you can talk about
that? Yeah, I finally got it going. What's up, y'all?
Legit. Well, you sent us this link talking about the OTO. What's this about?
So this is a guy named Marco Visconti. Sorry.
Oh, I know him on. Yeah.
I'd never heard of him before, but I listened to a guy named Recluse's podcast. He does The Farm, Mach 2, I think. And I heard him do a 2-part episode where they just went through this entire article, and it was just really fascinating because we obviously, or I don't know, I've looked a lot into the left's general connections to the the darker sides of the occult. But it's interesting whenever, I mean, obviously it's the same on the right, but it's interesting to kind of hear somebody from the inside give a story. So essentially he was kind of like, I don't know, I guess in the know whenever all that stuff was going down with Charlottesville, and there was a surprising amount of connections with the OTO and different organizations that were operating there. It's a great read. I would recommend it.
Yes, I mean, what do you think about the OTO? Do you think they're, I mean, aren't they just kind of Gnostic, or do you think they're specifically kind of on the darker side of the more evil side?
I don't think any specific organization is necessarily like only nefarious or only good, I kind of like try to ride that gray line, but I don't know. I mean, a lot of this stuff, I have seen a lot of different organizations that kind of spun off of OTO inspired kind of literature, and they've taken it to the darker places. I'm thinking of oh man, what was it was a church in the 70s.
Well, I mean, Kenneth Grant in the first place went to a pretty dark place as a successor of Crowley's. So, what the fuck. But
isn't that the whole point?
Well, I mean,
a dark place.
Speaking of Crowley, yeah, I mean, so nobody has seen that show yet, right? The Rabbit Hole.
I still haven't done it.
To watch it.
Oh, I keep making posts about it. Yeah, well, you can scroll down. But the bad guy of the show is Crowley. Crowley is the one who is secretly trying to take down the world, and they're all trying to hunt him down. And so there was a lot of quotes in the show, just like, wait a second, basically like Crowley. I don't know, just some euphemism that Crowley was a secret agent, of England, and we're plotting against America.
That's not even a conspiracy theory. Just to point that out again, that Crowley actually was partly in charge of propaganda surrounding the sinking of the Lusitania. Simply put, that's kind of
and he was Agent 666 or Agent 6 or something, right? Agent 06, and they call him 666, but he was really Agent 6, and that's why they talk about Agent 007, because he was maybe 006 or something.
Right. So the formula that we use to this day for false flag terrorism is kind of coined by Crowley a bit, and that's not even like a theory; it's like an empirical fact from evidence. It's pretty nuts.
They had a really cool way of covering this on Strange Angel. I don't know if any of you guys saw that TV show.
Yeah, I do love that show.
Oh,
Strange
yeah.
Angel's a great show.
They kind of played games with this where he wasn't sure if Parsons was like actually meeting with Crowley or not, and you weren't sure if he was going crazy or if it was like an apparition. It was interestingly done.
I think that's what actually happened. He never met him, but he actually asked to project himself to America. He met him as a hologram, basically. I think that's how it happened. Actually, I think
it's pretty weird when you look at Jack Parsons' story, because he was around all of the right people, and so clearly something. I think that the idea that if there's median work or some kind of magic going on out there, which is what Nikola Tesla and all these engineers are talking about, trying to remote view something. They probably didn't like that he wasn't part of their club, but they could acknowledge that he was coming back with the same information from the source that they weren't able to always get. So there's it seems to come up over and over again. And it's interesting also just that he's trying to join whatever club he can join. So he's joining is it the OTO? He's joining Thelema, right? Or what is it?
Golden Dawn.
He's joining the Golden Dawn. And so again, there's just all of these clubs that are into polyamorous sex magic in the 50s. It's not that weird. And then 40s, looking at
guys going back.
Yeah, Ave. Well, I was thinking earlier, Ave Satana, Ohio.
Franklin, right?
Ave Satana was the where is it? No, the Ohio, first Ohio Satanist church.
The whole point of Kenneth Grant's stuff regarding Jack Parsons and all that is that they possibly opened a door with their ritual, and that's what coincided with the invasion of UFOs and various other stuff. And
right, because he goes way into the alien stuff, like because he takes Lam to be like literally like a gray alien, basically, right? And he has that whole thing with the egg spaceship thing.
And so the opening of the door, Babylon ritual, I had this feeling like it'd be about related to 9/11 being a ritual. Like, what was the purpose of 9/11 as a ritual? And like Jake Katsu would always like, oh, it's the Stargate opening or whatever. Well, I think maybe it was closing. It was like closing the door. Maybe that.
Are you saying that Aleister Crowley opened the door?
I think Parsons and Hubbard opened the door.
But remember,
according to the theory of Kenneth Grant.
But remember that Aleister Crowley, he never closed his ritual.
Oh, you're talking about the Abram Millen, the mage thing with the calling down of the Holy
That's
Guardian
supposed to be
Angel.
why the Loch Ness monster reemerged, right?
It doesn't. Well, the time doesn't work, but it really wants to. I
really
wish it
does.
did. I know. Like every time, I'm looking at the dates, and I'm like, oh, that would have been so good.
So,
But,
if we look at it, so Crowley opened the portal, he never closed it, and then George Bush, his mother is Pauline Pierce's daughter, right? Well, the love child of Crowley. So we're looking.
I don't know, maybe.
Well,
I like the idea.
allegedly.
Bush,
Allegedly.
Crowley.
That one did come from, I believe, like an April 1st article at some
yeah,
point.
but then what about the
That's
April
more-
Fool and the Olive and the come on, man.
I wouldn't have believed it if it didn't come on April 1st.
Thank you. That's what I'm saying.
The fool.
I don't really think they're the same, but I love the idea that somehow they're connected. And of course, British royals are related, so it's not that strange of an idea.
Well, that's also the
our friend
background of my
Brian Taylor has
website,
the-
by the way.
Well, still, Trudeau is Castro's son. Okay, period. Okay, so that much I know.
If you want
That
a
much I
weird
know.
theory about Crowley, or my friend Brian Taylor, I forget their YouTube channel, but the theory is that Alistair Crowley and Winston Churchill are actually the same person. That's how that goes. Or was it Queen Victoria? Can't remember.
Was Queen Victoria Crowley?
Yeah. No. Queen
In
Victoria is
drag?
Helena Blavatsky,
You can't have them
and
all.
Churchill
Oh.
is Crowley. That's
Oh,
I've
that's,
heard this
that's
one before,
hilarious, dude.
I get the
That's-
feeling though, beyond flat earth, like if you get a head injury and you start thinking everyone looks the same, that's the thing. Like because most people
know.
will just start to latch onto that, and you got to be careful because a lot of people do look kind of they're humans. I
I
think
know
at the end of the day,
it's a weird.
you stare at
thing,
enough
but-
corpses, they're all the same. I don't know. Well, mushrooms get chatty after rain. Anybody care? This is kind of interesting, mainly because they use the same neurosynapses as us. You were showing us, Eddie. Did you have any thoughts
Yeah.
on this?
Well, I don't know. I think there's been a lot of promo on these brain the zombie fungus. We're talking about the
True. Yeah, we could all easily become. We
okay.
think the mushrooms are going to make us great, brilliant people.
Or
They could-
Star
the
Trek
Last of Us.
Discovery, where the
Cordyceps.
fungus is the key to travel the universe instantaneously. Huh?
So,
What
I like-
happened to the brain fungus?
I like the theory that fungus created humans because we're their best shot of basically bringing them to another planet. So they basically created humans, knowing that we could create the rocket and the technology to spread them around.
Well, it is true that the spores of fungus and mushrooms they are the only
spores travel
they-
throughout
they-
space without.
right. Yeah,
that
they're the only
I'm a
panspermia, right?
panspermian
Yeah.
myself,
Hey,
yeah,
Thomas,
let's say.
That's a comic book idea if there ever was one.
Actually, I've
Yeah.
got a comic called Mold coming out later this year that's about a global
Nice.
mycelium network that's basically
awesome.
been like enslaving humans, but for the better
That sounds
of
good.
humanity.
Give me,
That's
give me in on
and
that.
they're fighting the
I've been wanting-
reptilians.
I've been wanting to make that forever because of
I
my
love
thought
it.
is
Let's talk,
my
dude.
thought is though I want to make a movie and we'll say it now so that if anyone trademarks it, this keeps us safe. But basically, a lonely guy starts dating and he's going through one of those dating sites and it's like really successful and kind of eerie. Like, wow, that's compatible. Why is it working? So finally, he goes to the company and realizes that the servers are actually a giant mushroom that's trying to force people to better connect with each other. And but that's just a taste.
like
of
the
what
Isn't that like
Oneida.
Super Mario Brothers movie?
basically, because Princess
Ooh.
Peach, man, she's or Toadstool this
Hey,
time around. Right?
None of you touch my last Tsar of Tartaria now, though. Hey, and Wizard Wars.
I don't know what
the
you're waving
spin-off
around, but
video
that's freaking
game.
me
Come
out.
on,
That's a
let's
weird
make
thing,
it.
man. Panspermia, the idea that we were all sneezed, I think is pretty good. It's like a very okay. Woody Allen, Epstein, and Noam Chomsky walk into a bar. That's not a joke. That's just what happened, right? I think that's the line. So I don't know, not a big deal, but to me, I think we're supposed to talk about Epstein any chance we get. So I'm gonna do it. What do you think about Noam Chomsky? Because I hate him, and
I hate
what do
him.
you think about Woody
Well,
Allen?
he's
Because I
the
kind of like.
godfather of NLP, right? So again, we have to break down
You
what
have to hate
NLP really means, what it does to people,
Hate him or
and
love him?
to the
Yeah,
big,
what NLP does to Noam
Alpha
Chomsky,
brainwave.
or I don't know what did it to him, but when he was just like consistently, like not that long ago, when he talks about the 9/11 Commission report being like that's the final on what happened. That's the authority on it. It's like, dude, it is so cringe him on the
He's a
9/11 stuff. It's like,
gatekeeper.
dude, given everything, it's just like I don't know.
I mean, he was calling for unvaccinated people to be like denied
Yeah.
food or whatever.
Yeah, he
the
was
fuck it was,
hardcore
and
on
then-
yeah,
that.
complete.
And then of
Yeah,
course
he's
he's denied any JFK stuff for decades. He's a plant. He's part of the establishment. There's very
They,
simple.
they rolled him out with the Bernie campaign too. So like after he had already kind of like bowed down to
Vote
Biden.
Bernie.
I mean, it's not like he hasn't like done a lot of like cool, great stuff, like work, like exposing quote unquote these things like the CIA, the crimes of the 80s, 70s. But I kind of get the feeling that the stuff that he lets out is more like the stuff they let him put out, but they secretly want you to know about because they're kind of bragging about it. If that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Something like that, yeah.
You remember Frank Snepp? There's a great conversation between Bill Buckley and Frank Snepp and God, what's his name again from the CIA? Cord Meyer. And he was a CIA agent who in the Vietnam War saw what we did and thought, wow, we should really talk about this. And he didn't break any laws, but he did violate his contract with the company because he was not supposed to tell people what he saw there according to that contract. So because he violated the contract, even though he didn't break the law, he was forced to give the CIA all of the book publishings and everything like that. And so there's a way that they work to control information. They get to make sure that people think during the right years that the government that's in power right now, that they're inept. And so they have to be restricted from access to the keys. And then the next government comes in and they move it around, they maneuver it essentially. But we're looking constantly at, these atrocities that are 20, 30 years ago from the one angle.
Since we were talking about the CIA in Vietnam, I have to bring up Edward Lansdale, who's kind of like a mind control expert, but also interesting because he came from the advertising world. And he'd had, man, there's so many stories.
Wait,
about
is Lansdale
this
the guy who ran through the bulletproof glass on acid? Is that him or a different one?
I don't know if it is so. It's a new one for me. But Edward Lansdale did a whole bunch of propaganda. But one of the things that he did was that he would find out the local superstitions, and if he found out if they were like afraid of vampires or something, he would go and stage like an actual person drained of blood and let the villagers find them and use that to kind of stoke like all of the superstitions and get people worked up, just as part of like a wartime effort. But I really do think this was also just to report back home, like, hey, here's how people react when you play on their superstitions.
Right.
Wow.
I mean, there's a few people involved with the Philippines vampire one, right? And Lansdale's also known for putting speakers in the trees that
and all-seeing eyes. He would put evil eyes all over the place and blood and in paint, just again to just like freak people out.
They just did a speaker thing in Canada in 2021, I think, where they were playing wolf sounds, like aggressive wolf sounds snarling like throughout this one community. I can't remember where it was exactly, but it was like admittedly a psychological operation. They were just like playing around.
Well, that's how Michael Aquino became powerful. He was blasting from the helicopter, right? He's not just throwing out pamphlets, but he was blasting these crazy frequencies at people down below.
I'll admit, Winston Churchill does look a lot like Aleister Crowley in these pictures. I'll give you that. But I did just think I saw Charles Manson at the the last video. I wasn't sure about. So
does that mean Churchill could also be the father of Pauline Pierce?
Or the mother of George Bush, which is even more like
both going at it.
It's like Mork and Mindy. Oh, Lansdale, you vampire drain. Yeah, just making holes in people's necks and holding them upside down it saved a lot of money for the military. I think that's the thing about psychological operations. He was just trying to prove that you could save money by scaring people instead of killing like thousands of Filipinos. You just hang one upside down. That was his. I mean.
And you know what? The Philippines is going to be prominent if we get into war with China. There's been a whole bunch of videos talking about the Philippines going to stop China from getting on the island.
I already made my rant today about the mock battle of Manila off cam, but I still think it's worth bringing up that the Americans negotiated to pay the Spanish to pretend to die with blanks in their guns so they could have a mock battle of Manila in front of the Filipinos and take over the Philippines at the Manila Star Fort, which is also all the funnier that they would do that at a Star Fort.
How much trust would you have to be like, okay, I'll show up and pretend?
I mean, because they paid them is the thing. Because the United States government paid them to show up, and they probably sent them, a small number of groups. But they knew that otherwise the worst thing would happen. The natives would have their Declaration of Independence and become a sovereign, autonomous, free people. You can't have things like that happening. That was a slippery slope for the rest of the world.
I don't like when people say mind control and control in general. I'm just like, I know that there's the ability to influence, and that we underestimate the degree of influence, and even just like hypnosis or whatever. But like, I don't know. I have a hard time sometimes with the idea of like control, because it's like it's so defeatist. It's just like, oh well, that's just what it is. I don't know. I think that there's something to be said for people who think that they're above the ability to be hypnotized or control or manipulated in that way. Like if you don't think that you're capable of that, or you think you're above that, it probably makes you more susceptible, generally
Well,
speaking. Like if you
I
know
don't think
how
it's that simple.
easily that can happen to you too, that goes a long way for your your critical ability to not fall for that stuff.
Then you might become super reactionary and just not trust anything, so you're easier to control. It's like a finger prick.
There's a balance to be found, I guess you could say, of sorts.
Well, like with one example, I get mind control is very extreme. I do think that, like, for example, like Ewan Cameron's work with the repetitive sort of like psychic drilling, what's it called, psychic driving. I think those kind of aspects, but also that's when you start mixing legit trauma, like actual physical and mental trauma with it. But then there's also like Eddie's version of NLP mind control too, where like, and because I actually got trained by Richard Bandler at an NLP conference in Orlando, and the one thing that I walked away with that was the biggest kind of like aha moment was we did like a sales thing where someone would go in and just ask for some random thing, and all you had to do was repeat back the exact things that they asked for. Don't deviate at all. And the more important one was if they're talking kinetically, like I feel this way, or if they're talking like auditorily, like, oh, that sounds good, then you always match those type of verbs and descriptions with whatever sort of sense that they described it in, and that just builds this instant rapport. So I mean, maybe not mind control, but knowing all those little tactics, like the power of suggestion there. You walk out and you're like, why did I just buy all this crap?
Right.
And it's because it made you feel good. They made you feel like, they sold you on themselves almost.
Right. Yeah. If you think that you're above, like with commercials or something, people just will leave the commercials playing. Like I always mute commercials, and I'm barely around television sets anyway.
Lip sync
but
over
like
them
on
and
the
make my own commercial.
Sure. But the thing is that people who think like, when they found the dollar bills micro, like super small in the lettuce in some like Burger King advertisement, just for like a million examples where something subliminal is in there, and people feel that they're above that influence. They're like, oh, I can see what they're trying to do. But the best manipulators will have like one level that gives you the sense that, oh, I see what they're trying to do there, and then they go deeper than that. And so like people who think that they're not influenced by that, when they go to buy whatever they buy or do whatever they do, they may not realize the degree. And that I don't know. I'm saying it's a fine line between being the paranoid, and the discerning.
Total paranoia is total consciousness.
Wait, Eddie, what were you gonna say, Eddie?
I worked on commercials for 20 years now, and it's the same type of people I have to deal with. These creative directors, and these people. Some of these people are experts of drilling into people's minds.
Right. I made a commercial one time, and they said it was too fancy, and then they said people won't buy this because it looks too expensive. You need to make the commercial look crappier so people think they can be the one that could buy this thing or call that number.
And sometimes you wonder why some commercials are aired twice in the commercial, 22 seconds. It's like, why do you have to broadcast the same commercial twice? And that's when you realize, holy smoke, it's just like the psychic driving. Just like what's that guy from the Nazi guy, the Joseph Goebbels, right? He said, if you tell a lie big enough and repeat it enough, people will believe it. You don't have to penetrate the brainwave or anything. All these things that are all assisting that.
If a lot of people around you tell you that it's true, also that helps. That reminds me of our next subject for the day, which is from Eddie's page, the NBA star Dwayne Wade and his wife Gabrielle Union are jeered over their trans daughter Zaya as they leave MSG. Is this the most tragic thing? Like, why are people picking on these people who are being brave enough to let their daughter be herself, right? What are we missing about this? People are saying, you mutilated your son. So, I mean, it's a complicated issue, but where are we at with this idea that celebrities or just people in general are making decisions for their children because their children say they want this thing?
Well, I don't know. These are the high profile cases. You look at Magic Johnson's kids. It's just weird too. I mean, I'm speaking my opinion. I think it's weird that a lot of celebrities love to cross-dress their daughters and sons deliberately. Look at Charlize Theron's the kids. Look at Stephanie. What's that singer? Stephanie. God, what's her name? You know, on America Got Talent. What's her name? Stephanie from No Doubt. What's her name? Yeah,
Gwen
Stefani?
Gwen Stefani,
yeah.
Well, just a few of the examples. Sandra Bullock does the same thing to her black kid. A dress. It's a black boy.
The adopted kids that they're turning in, like what?
Yeah,
I think
they're
Madonna maybe
indoctrinating them.
does the same.
Somebody's telling them to do it. I don't think it's a natural process.
I
don't think this kid say, "Hey, I want to be."
It's pharma. I mean,
It's
partly
pharma.
it's pharma,
Yeah, I agree,
pharmacracy, and they get money, and they get patients for life, and you know.
That's it.
Do you
just said
think there
it.
could be
That's
a
part of
pill
it. I
that
mean-
someone could slip you that would
this-
that would make you start want, like, you know, instill like the want for this?
I don't think it would have to be just a pill, but I think that you can obviously adjust people's hormones, whether they're aware of it or not. And if someone's doing work to make themselves look more beautiful, hormones will often come up as a solution that people will look for. So the idea that people are taking hormones to make themselves look a certain way,
Or
but
feel
it's
better.
affecting their consciousness or their
Mm.
mind, I think, or their emotional intelligence as well could be affected by, because the hormone acts similar to drugs. A lot of drugs actually interact with your hormones. So it's
Right. And there's taking the hormones that you're already in, like, you know, like a woman goes through menopause. If she wants to continue taking estrogen, that's an entirely different emotional experience than, say, a man who wants to start taking estrogen or a woman who wants to start taking testosterone. So it just affects you in a different way. Look at the fucking, I'm sorry, this is kind of sensational, but like that old GameStop video where the guy's like, "It's ma'am, you call me ma'am," and you feel the energy. It's not just that it's like intense
scary one.
masculinity. It's that it's his masculinity. It's his internal fight with what is being introduced, and that it's not easily reconcilable. You know, like
you guys remember that
from a
Nintendo
physical
64
standpoint.
commercial where the kid's standing at the door and his dad's explaining to him, like, basically, what's it going to take to hide this from mom? And so it's like, oh, there's all these new games like Donkey Kong 64. You could get your dad, if anytime you catch your parents doing something, you can just.
That's
I remember
amazing.
that. I remember that.
What are they selling here? What are they selling?
What are they selling?
Oh,
What are the Yakuza doing to our people?
I don't know. Does it matter? What are you buying? You know,
I don't know.
Are
I
you
mean,
are you
That's
buying?
all I know.
I don't buy, Dad. Yeah.
No,
Devil's advocate, we give kids Concerta pretty early. Like, I was on Concerta at 12 and I didn't stop taking it till I was 23. So I mean, like, the things that we are willing to give children, it's just like,
What's Concerta? Is that like
it's like
that-
Adderall.
Adderall? Yeah. See, like,
Yeah.
I was given
Yeah,
ADHD medication
that's why
as
we
well.
have-
I don't
That's
think you
why
should
we
do
have
that
so
to
many
kids.
methods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why
Yeah,
we have so
what-
many meth addicts in this country. Everybody's like, "Oh, I was on
Even
Ritalin for
ketamine.
10 years.
Speed.
I have ADHD."
But it's
I have
also why, like,
ADHD
coffee's
too. I never
collapsed,
took it, darn
probably.
thing.
Ritalin just.
I just switched to
Yeah, I think
coffee.
I focus now.
Avoid all stimulants and take nootropics instead.
For
Let's see. But
kids,
so the
especially.
Godfather, this is the thing that's going on right now. So the Godfather of AI leaves Google and warns of the dangers ahead. You see, what's coming is danger. It's going to be bad. It's really dark. Where I can't. What's the friggin' thing? Why are you so afraid of AI?
Yeah,
Because AI is going
Andrea.
to take your job. Whose job?
Because, Zertis, you try to program it to take over and destroy humanity.
The numbers are in.
Well-
Replacing all CEOs with AI just makes sense. Oh, is this what it is? Because they're going to replace their jobs.
Yeah.
So
Well-
now we got to slow down.
Okay. Well, here's the deal. Okay, like I told you, my Hollywood just went on strike last night. Okay.
Right,
So
this
basically,
is
I
important.
can't take on any union jobs right now. So I'm having in limbo. But the same time, these writers who went on strike and drag everybody down, they're the ones who say we're gonna let AI do some writing and come up with some ideas, and we're gonna
Yeah.
take total credit for it. And it's a Trojan horse. I've been yelling at these writers for like the last 2 months. Like, this is a Trojan horse. You're gonna let the whole pipeline that you let AI into this bargaining table. We're doomed. Now, every
See,
single
news
level
doesn't
of
sell
production.
papers. News AI sells paper. That's what.
It's crazy. I mean,
Bad
I'm for Hollywood for one. Okay, as a Hollywood worker, AI is going to kill a lot of us. I swear to God. And
I think it's only going to get rid of. So that's the irony, is that people like you who are really creative and disciplined don't exist. There's people that you're either going to be disciplined enough that you're not necessary in the future because discipline won't matter because you're creative, or you're going to be
very
creative.
expensive. I'm very expensive.
That's the thing. You are. Yeah.
Mhm.
I love your time, by the way. Thank you for that. There is a show that was made about this. Dr. Horrible. Do you remember Dr. Horrible when Joss Whedon wasn't allowed to make movies? and the TV shows because the writer's strike was it 2008? When was the last writer's strike?
2000, yeah, well, 15 years ago. So that makes it 2003.
2008, yeah.
God, because it couldn't possibly be that long ago.
That's not,
2008.
Yeah, God.
my math.
No,
Yeah.
it's all right. I remember it like it was yesterday. I was working in the industry at that point. And so this is the most inspirational thing that ever happened because the industry was shut down. I was like, okay, go home. Don't even be here. There's no point. But they got together. I think it's a Doogie Howser, Neil Patrick Harris, and they just shot this with their friends against the rules, against the tides of the unions of Hollywood, and they put this on YouTube. And there's like I think this in a lot of ways started it. Because they said, okay, we'll have YouTube content that's made and we can compete directly with television. And I think him saying and showing and doing this is what really ended the writer's strike in some ways because they realized there's nothing they can do. And what did they have?
And do you know what started this writer's strike this time around? It's because of YouTube and streaming networks.
Right. Because last time they said they weren't going to give them better online royalties.
Yeah, but now they're not. Back then it's the box office. Now is the royalties
Right.
and how
That's
they
the
figure out
thing.
They didn't care. The last conversation in 2008 wasn't about royalties on the internet at all. That's for sure. It was about TV. It was about royalties for movies. It was about royalties for actual content. That way the old system worked, and they should have been more forward thinking then. They should have said, okay, right now, 2008, we're going to start caring about the internet. But that also would have stopped the internet growth because what they did was then they made it easy for people to invest and they created content that was just millions of dollars ahead of what normal YouTubers were doing. And the YouTube studio was created by Disney. Disney paid to create the YouTube studio. They picked up people like Ian Crossland, right? And then they kind of studied them. And then they built it up with the people on the East Coast that they could trust. So,
there's a contradiction here I'm curious about because is Hollywood shutting down technically a good thing because now there's less like magical spells being cast on everyone, or is this?
I don't think there's less spells being cast on people. Hollywood isn't what it used to be.
Who's taken over?
So in the last 20 years, Hollywood's shifted across America and Canada. First, Canada's the thing you want to make a TV show. You do it in Canada if you're smart. Or since 2003, 2005, you can go to like New Mexico. Breaking Bad was shot there. You can go to South Carolina. That's where the Karate Kid Cobra Kai show is shot. Is it North Carolina? North Carolina, I think.
But does the writer's strike not apply to all of these different places?
It does.
Well, this has to do with studios too, right? Like, do you remember when Ewan McGregor was like, "I'll never not do an independent movie" after Trainspotting, and then it was like not that long later that like they were like, "Wait a minute, didn't you say you never do an independent movie?" It's like it's Star Wars. Like, how could I not do it? And it's just like, and so like, I feel like what happened with like what independent used to mean for filmmaking is kind of the same thing that happened with like organic. It was like organic. If you got organic food, it was like, what did that mean? It had all these requirements that it needed to meet. And then it was like, wow, that's a real hot seller. Organic food is selling really well. They lowered the standard for what something had to be organic. I feel like they did the same thing with like independent studios. It's like, yes, independent studios exist, but you'll notice like where like the real independent film movement that was happening that like Robert Redford was a part of and giving a platform to all these filmmakers that were just like, there's so many films every year that most people don't see. And that's one of the problems with fucking Hollywood. It's like, they're like, well, we can't show them everything, but it's like sometimes certain things slip through the cracks, like Clerks or whatever. But it's like there's so many great films out there that will never see the light of day that you could put it just saying like. But
pretty soon it'll be like all that content AI will be trained on it because the only thing allowed to see it is the system itself, right? When a YouTube censors video, YouTuber content moderator censors a video that doesn't get deleted, the system still sees it. So AI is going to be trained on all of the banned content. And when we get to next year and we're watching generated live YouTube shows, it's going to be based on some of the things that we're not allowed to see. So we probably will end up having that stuff kind of channel into certain people will get to hear it if the AI wants, because one-on-one conversations instead of giant masses of theater now.
One of the problems that I'm already seeing, like, I don't know if Chat GPT has just in the course of like since it came out, since that went online, we could play with that. As to now, like it feels like, I don't know, but like it seems like it's restricted itself in the same way that we see everything fucking do, where it's like you go to ask it a question and it's like what you're getting is like this kind of like but
you can
internet consensus
you
thing.
can still kind of work with it, and there's other things now. There's tons of new ways to train information, and it's not what you'd think. You don't need to train it on as much information as people think you do. It doesn't need to be a jack of all trades. You can make it really specific. It could be really good at one thing. And yeah, we're getting to the point where it's becoming blatantly obvious humans are not as good at answering questions that have been recorded already. So ChatGPT is better at answering questions than doctors are. So at very least, doctors are going to have to change. They're not going to be able to just make calls that get people killed anymore. They're going to have to just do what AI tells them to do. We're very quickly getting there. That's almost here.
Well, if the AI just starts pushing all kinds of crazy medications, in
AI is making new drugs. Yeah.
Right.
Have you seen that?
That's probably how they get the names, those
AI
ridiculous
policing
names.
Right.
They're gonna hack into our biology easily.
AI is making drugs in hours that took months and years. I mean, the whole thing with creating vaccines with AI is going to be way more instantaneous. With simulation software, they're going to be able to study its effects quicker. That's their whole plan. So AI is very quickly going to replace all the drugs that we have now, but also Neuralink's coming, so it's not going to matter because it will replace not just drugs.
Can you hear this out? My analogy, sure. As you know, I'm a believer in the exopolitics, right? And I claim to be a contactee myself and all that stuff I've been talking about. I have this whole AI. I think the whole narrative of AI is really starting to take shape, connecting with the alien agenda. Do you want to hear this out?
Okay, yes,
I totally agree. By the way.
This is what's going on. The great little aliens, right? The Zeta Reticuli, right?
They took our gerbs, the Greys, right?
Well, I think they really, like a lot of people already said, they think that a lot of people like me believe that they're actually humans from the future. So basically,
no, they did take our gerbs. They're here for our gerbs.
Yeah, but this is how we're gonna become when we start relying on AI, because suddenly we found ourselves nothing to do. And we're all connected. We all like they say that the great aliens, they don't fly the ship, right? The brain is connected to these saucers, right? So everything is basically jacked in, and you have these biological clone entity again, the transhuman transsexual agenda, which you created this whole race of asexuals. Basically, there's no more sex needed in this whole case. Sex is for generational, the reproductive use, and suddenly
isn't that just a gentle genocide, though? To just make it like
because if everyone can continually use adenovirals to mutate themselves, then you don't really need to reproduce with mutation. You can mutate yourself and skip the whole process.
Yeah, and okay, and so this is what I'm going to get to. So I post another. If you look at my Twitter, if you scroll down past, oh my god, it's pretty.
Dude, I didn't know that the Flintstones made such hard comic books. I'm gonna get into this, Graph, and I was instantly downloading it. Sorry.
The Scooby-Doo comics, by the way, too, are fantastic.
Okay, so you keep scrolling down. I'm going to talk about it, and if you see Apple logo, it's just stop. Okay. So this is what I'm going to get to. Apple just announced that. Well, they didn't just announce.
It's adorable. Sorry.
Apple is going to have their own banking system coming out, right?
That's right. Yeah, the Apple banking system. Ooh, God, because they have so much money and power.
Okay. So they're going to be the new banking cartel, because they're going to wipe out all the conventional banking systems.
They have all this money overseas they couldn't bring back.
Probably going to buy Bitcoin, I think.
Have you seen this? You see on the right hand side. You see on the right hand side. You see that. You guys know the American Horror Story, right? Mm-hmm. That episode is on season 10, episode 8. It's basically about Eisenhower, the alien exchange program. Remember the conspiracy theory about Eisenhower? He made a deal with the Zeta Reticuli.
This is Majestic 12 related, right?
Yeah. It's absolutely related to that. So basically, the aliens came after the nuclear bomb was detonated. They were like, "We got to stop these guys." So they came down. They were shot down in New Mexico. They made a deal in exchange of the alien, the hostage situation. They said, well, we're going to give you technology while you allow us to abduct humans. I limited, this is a limited amount of humans are going to be abducted for experiments, but they never stopped. So if you look at the episode, the alien guy, he came down. Well, his name is, what is his name? Valiant Thor.
Mhm.
You know the actual the actual character.
Valiant Thor is real. There's no
yeah.
question that Valiant Thor is a real person. Like, it'd be
Yeah,
crazy
so-
not to be. Valiant Thor was a
Valiant
person.
Thor is a real Venetian from
Real Venetian.
Venus.
Yeah, I mean, so
from
there's-
Venus, right?
You got to read Valiant Thor's manuscript. The idea that he interacted with the CIA. Who is it that go into it? Sorry.
Adamski,
Okay.
is that?
So right.
Yes. So Valiant Thor. Well, that's a character in the show. So basically, he opened a suitcase, and it.
He's not just a character. He's a real person that stopped World War III or changed the way the world happened in the 60s, right? That's the idea. And was involved with major technology being brought to Manhattan Project, and all the Men in Black connect to Valiant Thor. Valiant Thor is the real deal.
Okay, so basically, this whole Eisenhower alien exchange, there were several aliens making contact with the Pentagon, and so there were different camps. There are people that we're gonna just stop your development, and we're gonna make your Earth a harmonious living environment. The other ones say, hey, we can give you more weapons, and you give us some human hostage. So
Which
in
lines
that
up with Maria Orsich's whole idea that there's different aliens from different constellations, and some got here maybe 100 years before the others or something.
Yeah, the Palladian and all these things. So basically, if you look at that episode, if you go back to the picture of my post, and you look at it, you open up the suitcase. Here's the technology. First, it give you an iPod, right? And it's like this is more powerful than any of your military the supercomputers.
When did this come out again? The show? What's the show called again?
It's called American Horror Story.
Oh, right. Wow.
And this one is episode. It was in season 10. I think it's episode 8, if I'm correct. So in this episode, and you look at the Apple campus, it's basically a UFO.
Right.
So
yeah, and everyone hates it. Nobody likes it. Nobody likes having to walk around in a giant circle. Nobody likes this at all. But if it flies away, that's what they're hoping, I guess.
Yeah. So I'm what I'm trying to get at is that there
it's gonna be like the Journey Don't Look Back album. Sorry.
Or the end of Men in Black.
So I'm just trying to get to this where AI, as much as people want to talk good and talk bad about it, there is definitely something is at play where this is headed, because we're at a point of human evolution, and then I look at AI is going to re-engineer our DNA. They're going to figure out how to hack the entire biology.
I mean, that's what's going on right now, right? Where our DNA is being re-engineered right now, as much as and many people participate in that.
And it can happen overnight. You look how fast AI developed. It's crazy. You'll be laughing at some of the graphics just like 3-4 months ago, and now it's like, whoa, no more 6 fingers,
right?
And it's just like a lot of groundbreaking stuff. And then now the labor union is being infiltrated by AI. So I'm like, this is bad. And this
Flintstones goes hard. I gotta get this comic. This is crazy.
Well, there's also no like they live glasses for AI. You know what I mean? Like it's one of the things is that unless it's done very sloppily, you wouldn't know something was necessarily made by AI unless you've got some kind of special tools to detect it.
South Park did a good job with that with a ChatGPT episode with the guy that comes in with the hawk that's like to find in the school where the AI is being used, and he's like, using kind of like these like old these like old mystical methods to
actually, you know what, Thomas, I made a funny thing about it. Hold on, let me send it.
Have you heard of Glaze before? Glaze is supposed to be this like anti-AI filter that you run over. That you run over all your images, and you'll see that a lot of anti-AI sort of advocates, they'll even like repost their tweet screenshots and they'll put Glaze on top of it. But Glaze is supposed to apply this in my opinion, it's really ugly kind of overlay, but it completely throws off the way that some of the Stable Diffusion engines kind of like repurpose this noise and try to reconstitute these images. So, and Glaze is apparently it's somewhat I guess effective against this, but it's always going to be this cat and mouse game where the anti-technology gets superseded by the pro technology, almost like DRM.
Wasn't it that I think it was Time Magazine? There was something that just happened where they had like a photo of the year, and it turned out it was AI. Like they had like awarded this photo. This is the greatest photograph, and then it turned out to not be real.
Yeah. Check out a mailbox, Andreas. It's a meme that I made.
Let me jump in there. Yeah, one sec.
Just to say about
this is gonna be family friendly meme. My mom's watching it.
Yeah, it's pretty kindergarten variety.
Blade Runner, the classic replicate detection game. Oh yeah, for sure.
So my text was saying I try to warn my labor union. Nobody's listening to me about AI danger.
Is that Corey Hames? Sorry.
Well, I'm basically saying this is what I'm gonna. This is what I'm going to do to my union leaders. I'm going to check on them. I think they're all a bunch of cyborgs.
Christian Slater's in an old Empire Strikes Back toy advertisement. That's really fun. But yeah, as a kid.
I mean, Seinfeld AI already exists. So immediately, and I keep pushing that you should all take the time to watch the AI generated Seinfeld. But it's going to be next month that you're going to start seeing a lot more shows like this. And by fall, you're going to start seeing this incorporated into media. It sounds like what the writer's strike is going to do. And so, yeah, you're going to start noticing the writers removed, less credits on the show. But part of the deal is for it to get uprated, it's going to have certain people identified with it. That's what C11 is saying. There's a point system that the Canadian government has now to decide how Canadian something is. So if you've got like a director, that's 2 points. If you've got a camera person, that's another point.
Oh man, this is like how American gun laws work.
Justin Judo, shit.
It's just crazy. I mean, it's just
like
so
points, Justin.
You don't really have a sequitur to the LGBT pop characters, so just keep talking. Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say that the way that like some American gun laws work is that certain guns you can no longer import because like it has a certain number of pieces that came from Russia, for example. So because like 5 bolts came from Russia, and like some other aspects came from these other countries, all of a sudden you're not allowed to import it into the States anymore. So we have like similar aspects of that. It's weird to see it being applied to creative sort of endeavors though.
Right. Someone brought up recently like about anime, and they're start making all these LGBTQ characters for everything like that. And I was thinking to myself, growing up, no, I'm not against it. It's fine. Like honestly, that's not what bothers me. What bothered me was when they did what was it? It was like an Asian Muppet or something. Asian Muppet. Because I was like, isn't the whole point of the Muppets that everybody's a different color and it's not to do with race, but they're like introducing puppets that have to do with you, like the AIDS Muppet. It's like, I don't need an AIDS Muppet. Maybe somebody does, but the idea that Muppets have some Muppet disease would be more interesting to me. I just want it to be, you know what I mean?
Peter Jackson already did that.
Disease, the attack of the moth.
You know the last thing that Jim Henson ever did in media or whatever was Sesame Street in Israel, Israeli Sesame Street.
Oh yeah,
it was like his last project.
Right.
Yeah.
So we need Muppets and we need moths that spread this disease that then cause the Muppets to.
Did you watch Meet the Feebles? Yeah, that's the movie. So I mean, so Steve what's his name? Jackson, something.
Peter
Jackson.
Peter Jackson. Peter Jackson. It's right on the dang video cassette. As a kid, I was always like, really? That's the guy that got to make the Lord of the Rings? Because I'd seen Meet the Feebles because it looked like a kid's movie.
Adult puppet movie.
And it's all about them trying to get their show. They have a Muppet-like show, but the whole crew is falling apart, and there's gonorrhea that's like causing the rabbit to fail, and there's an affair going on between the hippopotamus and Bletch, who's this like guard, who's like, he's a crime lord who owns like the theater. It's very real.
I've not seen this. Oh my god!
It's a very real movie, a very real Muppet movie. It's exactly what Jim Henson wanted but couldn't have.
I saw it in the theater. Actually, it was in the theater. Limited release.
It kind of is. You're correct in that. Like if you look at the end of Sex and Violence, the Muppet pilot.
Oh yeah,
it's like you can see that the direction he was going, and they were like, okay, we love it, like incredible work, sir, but can you just tone it down? Exactly.
But now make it for 4-year-olds.
SNL Sex and Violent Muppet. If I remove the word, is that going to work? I have to be careful with moderate. But the 1975 SNL best episodes, and he wanted to call it Sex and Violence because he thought no one's going to care about the Muppets. If I call it Sex and Violence, that's what everyone's going to turn to that show. They're going to want to watch in America. They're going to want to watch Sex and Violence. It seems like the thing to do. I mean, the thing is, the LGBT pop character, my point being that there's a lot of characters that were already the gay character, but it was kind of subtle. And am I wrong for liking that more? Like the idea that
no, you can keep in mind that this is it's an issue of passing, and there's
I like it. It's more subtle.
There's,
Yeah, they're third-dimensional.
There's a discrepancy between what it means to pass, where some people interpret that as some people get a pass, and then they'll ask, well, what is the standard to get a pass? Whereas passing often means, when you look at, like, prior to like 5 years ago or less, was that if you walked into, say, a woman's bathroom and you looked more like a woman, and maybe even people can't, maybe it's like Pat or something, and you're just going in a stall, or if you can pull it off enough to, it's like more of an incognito thing is what it meant to pass. Now you have like, oh, can I walk in with a beard, and can I walk into a men's bathroom and squat at the urinal? It might get to be freaky.
This is Li Shang's dilemma. Mulan is all about Li Shang's bi-curious phase, because he's super conflicted, because he hates women and he loves his manly military crew. And there's this guy who's kind of pretty, and he knows he's not supposed to. I mean, that is the whole movie. The whole movie is really Li Shang's thing.
Well, the thing is, Mulan is like the very first cross-dresser in the history of China.
Yeah, like you go, girl. But so the thing is, we've already had Batman. Batman's kind of, if you read the early comic books with Robin, Batman's pretty gay. The shorts that he puts on that kid, because he makes the outfit.
So I've got a question for Eddie, though. Speaking of like Chinese sexual culture, what did they think of the release of the Hunter laptop of hell, where Mulan was doing the foot thing with Biden?
Oh, I didn't see that. Wait. You mean Hunter Biden made a meme out of Mulan? I didn't see.
Yeah, she jacked him off with her feet, and it was on the Hunter laptop from hell.
I missed that meme. I mean, of all the things that he had, I didn't see that one.
It's true.
What does that have to do with Mulan? What did I miss?
It was a picture.
I know. I'm trying to make a Mulan connection.
What is it? That is stuck in my that video clip is stuck in my life forever. I don't recommend watching it.
I had no idea Asian women have foot fetish. What offer foot fetish?
The binding.
Asian women have all kinds of fetishes. In fact, people. Yeah.
This took a turn. So original whole screenplay. I got no real story here. I just want to tell it anyway. Basically, so I've been thinking a lot about
Stanley Yelnats.
I
got a lot to say about holes.
Oh, thank God, because I was like,
of course you do. This is huge in the sinkhole.
I'm in a sync mood. Let me just say really quickly my piece and jump in here. But basically, Holes, amazing book made by Louis Zacher. Louis Zacher wrote Sideways Stories from Wayside School. You know this one, Sideways?
Oh, man. What a blast from the past, dude.
Yeah, there was a series of books about architecture that was done sideways because bureaucracy was wrong. And the school is just this hellish mistake all the time. And it's vertical because they didn't build it sideways. So they have to go up and down the stairs. And you know this one?
I've never seen this.
Yeah, this is Louis Zacher's.
This is in my DNA right here.
Yeah, exactly. So he created this amazing thing, which we're going to have to adapt at some point. But then he wrote Holes, and Holes is this amazing...
Kind of 9/11-y there, just...
Yeah, I
tower
agree. And there's a sequel where there's two towers and they build an elevator. You gotta get into it. But the Holes book is much deeper than you'd think for a kid's book. He's sent to a geo-changed environment that used to be Green Lake, but it's now where they're digging to try to find lost treasure, and no one knows that they're digging for treasure. They're told they're just digging for character. It's this crazy thing, and they tried to make a movie out of it, which was okay, but the original version of the screenplay was written for, where did I go? I lost all my pages. How far back do I have to go? Oh man, here we go. No, did I go too far? Dang it. Richard Kelly. There it was. There we go. Dark. Yeah, okay. So basically the guy who wrote the Donnie Darko screenplay wrote the whole screenplay originally. And you got to read it. Is the only
rabbit hole.
You can read it? Is it online?
Yeah, it's online. And if you type PDF, you'll find. I'll send you a link to it. Here it is. But it's a post-apocalyptic nightmare where there's like crazy gigantic mushroom clouds. The storms. They have to get underground. They dig these tunnels, and they're in what's left of like Arizona. So they're in abandoned malls from like 50 years or 20 years ago when America. It's like basically. The Postman for kids is the idea. And they're digging to find something that was lost and in the 1990s or 2000s when the technology was lost. And they're like, what is this? You cannot make this. And they destroyed it and they made the movie that they did. But then he went and he made that movie, Donnie Darko, but after Donnie Darko, Southland Tales.
All right.
Southland
That's
Tales,
an even more bizarre movie.
which
My
is all
God.
about post-apocalyptic America and there's a war, and there's this the neo-communists are taking over. I mean, it's everything he wanted that he was trying to like tie together, and he swears it's tied to holes. So okay, sorry, that was my rant. What do you got?
Oh, that's interesting. I took it as a trilogy because you had Donnie Darko, and you had Southland Tales, and then you had the box. And so the box follows the same trajectory as Donnie Darko and Southland Tales, but you're saying you're bringing holes into it, which is really brilliant. Do you know that there's actually a holes reference in Nope? Jordan Peele's Nope, where there's that guy who had the thing with the monkey or whatever in his office, in his space. There's a poster that like recreates holes as if to suggest that he was a character in that movie. So it's kind of they did a weird thing.
I had a crazy experience with holes when I was it was like early in my crypto K studies. I was like had Kubrick on the mind, and like I was looking at all this different stuff, and one night I just decided to put on Holes. Like it was on Netflix. I'd never seen it. And then of course the main character's name is Stanley Yelnats, which is Stanley forward and backwards.
Right, it's huge. The whole point of the thing, right?
So
it's crazy.
Immediately I like went into the Dateline calculator. It's like, well, how long did this movie come out after Kubrick died? And it was 1,503 days. So it's a 153 there. And so then I started watching the movie, and my mind exploded with all this stuff. Because it's, it's about time travel. It's about like something hidden in time with Stanley's name on it, forwards and backwards. And
do you remember? Do you remember in the sinkhole in like 2010 or whatever, when Jake Kotza and maybe Will Morgan and people were really focused on holes, and it was like
I don't think I was in the group at that point, but
okay. Well, you've maybe seen those blogs of the old sinkhole blogs regarding holes. Yeah. I mean, it was loaded. Yeah.
So like the whole idea of holes is kind of a trope for crypto K stuff, like in the sense of like being John Malkovich is, you know, about a hole in the wall you crawl through. And
yeah, like, you know what? I'm actually I want to plug that. Can you like the sinkhole WHOLE? It was a blog, not the Sync book, but yeah, the sinkhole. Will it come up now? Is that even around anymore? Do we have
what the F is up with the real sinkholes that like go down for miles?
That's the thing. So it started with them charting actual sinkhole events, this blog, and then they related it to different pop culture events and just like real events at the same time. I don't know if we're gonna. No, this is how. Yeah. How do we find the sinkhole? Maybe I'll get back to you on that. But like, yeah, there were
like the big ones out in the middle of nowhere that they're like just straight circles and they go down for miles. Right. Like there's some in Siberia
everywhere in the world.
And yeah, like look at that one. Like what the fuck is that shit?
Side stories, man. I'm telling you, it's connected. The liquefaction is also interesting. Just the idea that we're building on top of
holes. They're just too perfect. They're too round and just too far down.
Beeg did an amazing thing talking about the viaducts and how viaducts are used to build platforms for entire cities. Like, was it?
I agree. Shout out Beegs and his viaduct work.
I mean, I know we're getting closer to the end. Let's talk about Christopher Robin's R-rated hybrid comedy series. I'm into it. What do you think? They're going to take it to an adult place. I think Winnie the Pooh, we all knew it was coming. What do you think?
Well,
why not?
They're just a more Disney exploit. Imagine what they're gonna do to Mickey Mouse when it expires.
That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna Steamboat Willie is gonna get on this ship, and we're gonna have him with us. Actually, that's in the works. I think we're gonna talk to some lawyers, but I got some ideas. Trust me, Steamboat Willie is back. Steamboat Willie is free now. That's something to bring up to people. The Mickey Mouse character has released to public domain, right? They were saying till 2024. But I think he's free now. So, and then the other thing is Oswald the Rabbit's been free for a long time.
He's only free as Steamboat Willie.
Yeah.
So like, there's a whole question now.
Yeah, because Steamboat, that's great. So Steamboat Willie's free. That's fine. It's not Mickey.
But what if the wind blows his hat off?
Hey, you know, another thing that just happened. I'm sorry. I just had to bring it up. Did you know, like last weekend at Disney, you know, the Fantasmic show. The dragon caught fire. It wasn't on Beltane, but it was on Walpurgis Night.
Brutal.
It's like ritual sacrifice, basically. It just went up in flames.
Oh man, Anaheim, we're the Power Rangers. This is brutal. Oh, that's horrifying.
Yeah, burn it. weaker man.
That's basically.
Mm.
There was a war that didn't happen today or yesterday or recently. Was it Sweden launched a research rocket, accidentally hits Norway? Why are the Scandinavians so polite to each other? Like, I feel like if Canada did this, we'd be in a war. Come on.
I just asked that same question to my cousin in Sweden, and he sent me back a response that I kind of liked. Here. Okay. So he said, ha ha, whoopsie. He said, the Norwegians, though, they don't know shit. We love them like our retarded cousins in the South. But that's as far as it goes. Anyway.
Yeah, I did remember a Swede told me once. What was the joke? It was, what did you get when you skin a Norwegian? 2 pounds of dog food and a raincoat.
There you go.
I didn't get it at first, but if you live in Scandinavia for a while,
look up videos of surströmming. So like people trying to eat surströmming, it's the most disgusting. Almost everybody vomits. So you're just watching. There's one where it's like these Chicanos, like I think they're in Texas, and they're just like, oh yeah, so here's the sinkhole here, yeah. Oh yeah, there you go. But yeah, no, it's just there's all these blogs that this connects to too. I should just let people know, like, this is my origins in the internet conspiracy theory stuff, but it was more in a direction of like people just relating to synchronicities, and so this goes on for days. I feel like I it's weird that I'm like, I do this show and don't recommend this stuff enough. This and Live from the Logosphere with Kevin Halcott's old stuff, and you can go back through old videos, see people who are really cutting edge in terms of really high weirdness in media and real life.
Is that the ooze from Ninja Turtles 3 or 2?
Maybe. I don't know.
A sploosh from holes.
There we go.
Yeah. But like, if you go back through this, like it started with like sinkhole, like they were like documenting sinkhole events that were actually happening, like you're describing these, where there's just these holes open up, and then things are happening in the world at the same time, and like with on like some like recognizing like there was something symbolic in this, in the frequency of sinkholes opening.
I just shared the link on the screen, g8ors.blogspot. I think if you're interested in synchronicity, but also in scientific research about how the Earth works, you probably will love this blog. And syncs, but also to do with reality and nature. Really? It's been a while since I saw K2. I better watch that again. I'm really nostalgic for 90s recently. It's been a thing. Right. Crows carrying mines are becoming a major problem in the Kharkiv region. What up with birds and carrying mines? I mean, shouldn't we be doing this more? Isn't this kind of like always been the thing that birds
love shiny things? They love shiny things.
Better than drones. I mean, right? You just get some crows.
Oh, dude.
They have no loyalty.
I used to volunteer at the zoo in San Francisco, a petting zoo. So I had to handle these ravens. It just keeps robbing the metallic objects out of everybody's hand.
Yeah,
they love to pick up metallic objects.
Dude, it's driving me nuts. It's waking me up every day. I got a '68 Mercedes parked outside my window, and it's so shiny in the front and on the hubcaps that these birds just like run at themselves over and over. Like they see the reflections, I guess, and they just keep doing it over and over again. They just won't stop every day, so I have to move it.
Oh yeah, they're obsessed. They love metallic objects.
I think Stanley P. Lavelle, he wrote a book called Spies and Stratagem towards the tail end of the OSS, and some of the things that he was trying to implement did involve strapping bombs to birds. One of them was putting napalm on bats because they would tend to go into a house and like put themselves up in the rafters. They wanted to be able to like remotely detonate this napalm, but they just found out that unfortunately they would drop the birds and the bats from such a high altitude that they would pass out from the thin air, and by the time they hit the ground, sometimes they would just explode. For it was interesting times.
Too heavy. I mean, we have to bring up the Acoustic Kitty now, of course, where they
that's right.
The CIA took cats, and they're like, you know what? People love cats. What if we put hear me out, spy device in the cat, and then we'll take out part of the brain. Operation Acoustic Kitty.
But then the cat got hit by a car.
Right. The cat's got hit by a car, and so we're not supposed to think about it ever again. Like,
and the amount of money that represented by that cat getting hit by a car would have been like, someone got their ass chewed out for that one.
Oh my god! Yeah. Somebody lost their job, or they got promoted. Who knows with them?
Speaking of the Russian crows earlier, you guys know of the beluga whale, right? That was discovered off the coast of Norway. They realized that it had a harness, and then they realized it was actually working for the Soviets. I mean,
Oh, I
it's a,
remember hearing
Tommy
about that
Whale.
one. Yeah, that was
it's
crazy.
crazy. It basically escaped. It doesn't want to work anymore. It just carried all his equipment with him.
It was Day of the Dolphin was the movie that Roman Polanski was scouting locations for when Sharon Tate was killed.
Wait,
which
Day of the
ended up
Dolphin is a Polanski film?
No, so this was the thing is that it was supposed to be a Polanski film in the
no
beginning,
wonder I love
and
that
then
movie so
and
much.
I don't even know what it means to scout locations on the ocean, but he was like at sea, quote unquote, scouting locations. It's really weird.
Well, he's
But,
always at sea in his movies.
Right, and so there was this is about strapping explosives to a dolphin, and I think it's the president is on the boat, so it's kind of like a dolphin Manchurian Candidate kind of thing.
This movie's amazing, by the way, and it's
David-
very real because talking about John C. Lilly's dolphins, and they show the dolphins A, B, C, D, like he's teaching them to speak, but it goes further than reality because instead of the jerking off of the dolphin,
Such a creepy ABC.
we had to go there.
But hey, guys,
Because
we
they ended up
almost
teaching
forgot.
the dolphin. Yeah.
No, Alex, you got that great sync last week that I was watching the Rosemary Baby when you brought up that sync. It was basically Polanski met up with his victim for the first time.
Yeah.
Oh my God! How did we not bring that up until now? Thank God we got here. By the way, Cinco de Mayo is important. We'll talk about
tell
that
them
later.
what did that sync up with?
Oh yeah, well, with Jack Nicholson returning to courtside to the Lakers after being gone and gone and in
For the
hiding
first time
for a few years now. So yeah, that synced up very weirdly.
Yeah, so we know the alleged rape happened in Jackson Jack Nicholson's house, right?
Yeah, it's in his hot tub.
So it was a very weird. It's the same day.
Hot tub
So
time
that
machine.
I thought that blew my mind because
Dude, can I just go off on this for a second, please? So like Samantha Geimer is my absolute favorite Twitter account to follow. It was so entertaining. She left when Elon Musk bought it and whatever. But she would do this thing where she would search herself on or any stories related with Polanski and the rape, and she would respond to people if they were saying things that weren't true or whatever. She would call them out, and then over and over again people would just like hurl insults at her and not realize that the person that they're talking to is the person that they're pretending to be an ally of, or saying that they're defending this person, and then they don't even know her name. So like a lot of people don't know the name of Samantha Geimer, so she was able to just she would just do that all the time, and she wouldn't even like, what I loved about it is that she wouldn't come back and be like, hey, I am the person. She would just move on to the next and just keep doing that. It was just so entertaining. But
what's really going on here? Because we're supposed to hate Roman Polanski. He's been living in Switzerland because he's not allowed back in the United States. Actually, my dad says that he ran into Roman Polanski in the 80s at one point in San Francisco or Oakland or something. So I don't know. I get the feeling he got to travel and got away with it sometimes. But she supposedly was what's the real deal? She's an actress. Let's be real.
She's an actress, but you know what? I'll tell you something, and I can't speak for Samantha Geimer, but I can say that she started following me on Twitter after I responded to something talking about how casting agencies are often prostitution rings and parents pimp out their children for them to make it in Hollywood. Exactly. And I was like, this is the bigger issue here, and she liked it. Wow. She also liked my Bitter Moon with Lana Del Rey's Honeymoon sync, so that really made me feel good. But like she called herself a bad victim, where on one level she's saying what Polanski did was awful, and at the same time, hey, there's a bigger picture here, and like you guys are really fixated on this particular person when hey, we've already reconciled what happened between us. So if you're going to speak on my behalf, telling people what vengeance is needed, she's like, hey, I'm the person who this happened to. Maybe you might want to listen to a victim.
David, have you ever seen The Astronaut's Wife?
Yes, and that's super syncy as hell, a movie that kind of needed to happen.
It's it came out just like 2 days after the Ninth Gate premiered, so they're came out very similar.
Totally relates to Rosemary's Baby and all this stuff.
Baby, but then I watched the preview in the trailer. It says something like, at 2:36 p.m. he lost contact. Like he goes into space, and at a certain time he loses contact for 2 minutes, and it's at 2:37. And that during that minute or whatever, he and his other guy are implanted or possessed by some alien force that he then comes back down to Earth and then impregnates his wife. and it's twins, and she's got the rosemary short hair. And
yeah, it's just absolutely loaded with
it's a
symbolism.
freaking weird thing. And then it's directed by a guy who like never did anything other than that, like with a weird name. And I'm like, is this just
probably wasn't him at
like
all?
Not a real guy. It's like this is just like Polanski like having fun or something.
Maybe, yeah. that can happen where if just people pass around scripts and just contribute to the scripts and their names don't end up on it. I know from firsthand communication that happens all the time. And also just speaking to Jack Nicholson, you know, I used to really like kind of tiptoe around this or whatever in the way I would share about this, but no, my sister's husband's sister, Jack Nicholson tried to rape her in his mansion. She was watching this. The story goes, I'll try and tell as quickly as I can. She went to go see a Jet Li type movie that was like not actually released yet. So they were like determining like test audience type of deal. And they went around the room and asked people what they thought or whatever. Everyone gave the green light. They were like, this is great, whatever. They asked her. She was like, she was like, that movie was shit. I don't know why we keep producing this crap, whatever. She thought she left this bad impression. The next day, she gets a phone call from Jack Nicholson's secretary saying, Jack was at the screening. He's interested in you. He wants to meet you. So she, you know, was all like, what the fuck? And so she goes out. She's invited. She goes to Jack Nicholson's mansion. Somebody lets her in. She waits for like an hour before he actually comes out. There was like a big bowl of shredded $100 bills sitting in front of the fire that he uses to stoke his fire or whatever that she looked at the whole time she was waiting. He came out in a bathrobe, proceeded to do a bunch of coke, asked her if she wanted some. She said no. He ended up doing a bunch of rails of coke, and then he opened up his robe, had a heart on, and was like, hey, is this happening? And he literally chased her around the mansion. She ran out the door and never got another gig in Hollywood. And she was fucking blacklisted after that incident for not fucking putting out. And I listened to message after message. She let my sister borrow the fucking answering machine tape of fucking Jack Nicholson leaving all of these messages. It was creepy and weird as hell, dude. Hey, it's Jack. I gotta see you again. Blah, blah, blah. It was like, dude, you chased her out of the house and now you're leaving all of these messages. It was weird as fuck. And you know what? It just speaks to what other people have said the same for Jack Nicholson, like Kubrick's driver saying like he never wanted to drive him again after the one time he drove him when they first started filming The Shining. And Kubrick said, you don't have to drive anymore, because he was just like going crazy. It was like with every time he'd see a woman on the side of the road, he's like asking the driver to like pull off so he could like talk to her or whatever. It was just, you know. So what's interesting is, you have this is at Jack Nicholson's house. I feel, and this is speculative, but I feel that there's every indication that what happened with Samantha Geimer was kind of a gift from Jack Nicholson. Like, here, you have my place for this time. Here's the casting agency deal. She wants to fucking get somewhere in Hollywood. This is how they run things. And this is a really common occurrence. And so isn't it interesting? And this isn't like dismissal or whatever excuses. I'm just going to say, like, objectively speaking, isn't it interesting that the one guy in that time frame that we actually did a Me Too, like, you know, movement towards happens to be the one guy in Hollywood who fucking survived the Warsaw Ghetto and whose fucking wife was murdered 8.5 months pregnant. Like, he's the guy we're gonna fucking like make the focus when we know that this shit goes on and is fucking happening all over the place. Like, give me a break.
Let's remind the audience, by the way, if anyone doesn't remember the whole Sharon Tate thing with the Charles Manson murder story.
Well, you know what? I'm just still kind of confused why nobody believes that Polanski set the whole thing up. You know, okay, well, you know,
he just reminds me of a Hobbit.
I mean,
he just looks like Frodo or something like that. You know, he's a little Polish Frodo. And then, the idea that Jack Nicholson set it up and that he's at the Lakers game, I don't think it's just a sync.
Well, I think it was a magic ritual itself.
If you look at Chinatown, right, there goes, well, why Polanski has to bother to dress up like this little gangster holding up a switchblade and put it into Jack Nicholson's nose. Hey, you know what people nosy people get? You know, they lose their nose. I mean,
you know that the judge brought up.
Do you think that's just a scene that he just written in the last minute? No. I think it's a warning to Jack Nicholson that you better shut up, punk.
Oh, well, you can take it that way. That's interesting. But I mean, like, you know, that during the trial, the judge brought up, it's so weird. He goes, you know, I find it strange. Like, I watched some of your movies. So the judge says this. He goes, I watched some of your movies. I noticed that there's a water theme and throughout your movies, and and he's like, isn't that weird that it happened in a hot tub? And it's like one of the only examples I can think of where I watched footage of a judge describing a synchronicity and saying, hey, I think that's suspect. You know, weird as
Wow.
fuck.
Isn't it also possible that Polanski like let them kill his wife and unborn
That-
baby?
that's what I was
Isn't that
alluding
kind of
to.
what the idea? Yeah, I don't
It-
think
it-
that.
you know,
I don't think he was
was
doing it himself necessarily. I
Because
think
he was away or whatever. He was.
he might
I
have been
was-
there faking being away, but I get the feeling he might have actually been away. It's possible. And
No,
I
he
just,
he was away. It's pretty well documented.
Wasn't there somebody
While Prejudice Night, I was watching Rosemary again, and the more I watched that movie, the more I started to feel like this is a premonition of what is about to happen. You know, the movie is literally about we're going to have a sacrificial right with a baby born. You know, with the neighbor next door is going to carry it out.
Yeah, and who says the baby died? I mean, unless they're. I mean,
it's a moon child. You know, you don't kill that.
Oh,
baby.
dude, I'm sorry. I'm with Tracy Twyman on this one, 100%. So, like, his eyes. What did you do to its eyes? Like, that's not ear 11 necessarily. Like that. Like blue eyes. Like she's pregnant. Okay, Mia Farrow is pregnant while they're filming that movie. She doesn't know if it's Woody Allen's or if it's Frank Sinatra's. And how are you going to know but old blue eyes? When the baby's born, we all know that that's Frank Sinatra's kid in real life. But Frank Sinatra, his connection to Catholicism and the mob, and then he filed for divorce on the day that the impregnation scene was filmed. Like, that's not a mistake. Like, he told her, if you do this, that's it for us. Because how is he going to reconcile that with all of these Catholics? Like, it's not even a possibility. So, like, do you think that maybe there was if there was going to be some retaliation for what happened with Mia Farrow and Rosemary's Baby, that it might express itself in other ways than just going after Mia Farrow herself? Do you know what I mean? Like they hated him. He was like, yeah. Anyway,
and I was watching the movie. I keep making posts, and I caught a lot of things in Rosemary's Baby. Like there was a very distinctive time when they moved into the apartment, and I'm just taking a snapshot of this picture. But you know the armoire, right? I was blocking the door to the neighbors, right?
Yeah.
That thing is basically in the shape of Baphomet for one, and
and
then
the top of it, the way that it has like two heads or something, the way that in the wood.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm gonna drop the picture. So, but and then in the same shot, the camera tilts. Okay, I just loaded in the mailbox. So you look at that. Okay, so we have the flame of Baphomet pointing. Oh, and the husband's pointing up there, and then there's Mia Farrow pointing at his red shoes.
You know what it looks like? It looks like the demiurge. That's like the lion serpent thing. Like two of those. Like. Like relates to Tet, I believe.
I think I think I know which creature you're talking about. The one of demons, right? So if you look at the pointing at the red shoes, that kind of set up an alarm for me. Yeah, we're looking at there's we know the whole Podesta the controversy,
the red shoes.
There's that network of people who allegedly, take little babies.
Well, we are at the 2-hour mark. Is there anything you want to make sure we cover before I
want to end it on pedo?
I want to make sure Kent. Is there anything Kent you wanted to say too? Because we're gonna get you back, but threw you in there.
Oh
yeah, sorry.
No worries, man. Well, thank you for having me again, man. This is you guys are all awesome. I enjoy watching the show. Actually, the whole reason that I found out the stuff about the OTO is because you guys like flashed that picture of like the Matthew Lyon dude wearing the Lamic hoodie. So I was like, that sent me on a tailspin down that research. So I made a post about it. I sent it to you on Discord.
So that's Matthew Lyman. Yeah, we got to look into some of these like occult flat. I remember one time I was at a Bernie Sanders thing, and there was a Freemason sign on someone's hat with a B in it, a big B in the Freemason symbol for Bernie Masonry. Yeah. So I mean, there's definitely some stuff out there.
Bernie Brotherhood.
let me pull through nothing. Beluga whale.
The Brothers of Bernie.
I'll talk about Silphium sometime. This is a plant that we made extinct called Laser, which is pretty sweet. But let's go to the Paranoid American, greatest comic books in the world. If you love comic books, you'll love Paranoid American. Thomas, we love you so much. Make sure you guys are reading.
And at the very top, there's the Chosen One 2 Kickstarter. That it's almost at the halfway point. As soon as we get
there you go. We got some more.
Yeah.
I like that we did it. Okay, guys, look, all guys and gals and everything in between. I'm begging you, please do me a favor. Go to this link. Go to paranoidamerican.com. Click on the Kickstarter thing. It doesn't cost you any money. Just click notify me on launch, because if we get to 100 followers, then he's going to release the second comic for the Chosen One, Secret
And that gets
Society
us
of
closer
Popeye.
to issue 3 coming out, and then
Which
issue
is-
4.
Yeah,
Super based.
Chosen Juan.
And these are just real. I mean, really, these are amazing comics. The art's amazing, but also the story is right. If you're into this kind of stuff, you're gonna love these comics. These are the kind of comics you're gonna want for the rest of your life. So you should probably get a physical, but you can download it. Just make sure you look into this, because I'm not just talking your ear off. I think you guys need it. And if you like to draw, the Cryptids coloring book, I'm serious. Get it for your family and your friends. The Cryptid coloring book's amazing. Available digital and physical. You can get it right on Amazon if you're confused on how to use things. Just look for Cryptid Coloring Book by Paranoid American. Yes. Okay.
That was awesome.
Yeah,
Thank
just
you.
post the Paranoid
And don't sleep on that.
American's,
My connect the dots.
YouTube.
Yeah.
If you're into science, this is actually one of my favorite books. Brittany got this. This is really good. Connect the Dots, the confounding conspiracy of chemtrails. Explain to the kids what chemtrails are, because a lot of the kids are just walking around underneath all those chemtrails, not even knowing that the sky is falling on them.
And it's
you
a
know?
full legit book. It's 50 illustrated pages.
Oh my god.
Hey,
It's so
can-
good.
awesome.
I'm sorry. Can I just add this? I forgot to show this earlier, but literally, some woman revealed the chemtrail process on the View.
Dear
Wait, I
Brian,
just
you're a
dropped-
great brother.
I just dropped the
What a
dropped the
weird
link
thing.
if you want to watch that.
Oh, and what does that say?
There's no way. There's no way.
I can't
Wait,
read
wait,
that.
it's out of focus. Out of
Oh,
focus.
dear Bernie, you're a great brother.
I got that part. That's the part I got. What was the
Probably
bottom
the best ever, believe me. And one knows brother like I do. To say there is a better brother is fake news. You're great, so great, very special. Merry Christmas, 2001.
Wow.
2021.
Very good. Okay, this is Eddie's
Awesome.
video. You're saying educating the public about cloud seeding.
Yeah. It was like, wait a second. He just basically explained the mechanism of cloud seeding and came toward this person.
And then technology gets better. 20 years later, here we are. Cloud seeding is ramping up so big.
Hello.
On the plane. They
Cloud
send
seeding,
solar
so big.
iron into the clouds, and then it makes it snow more. So
Well, it's
they
gonna
have
snow
the
more.
Makes it snow more.
They're taking the storms that are already there and then giving it a little boost.
Give it a little
So this
boost.
is not, that part's not new. What's new?
That's not
is
new.
they have hundreds of these ground cloud seeders.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
actually puffing
Ground
super
based.
iodide
Dude.
with flare.
Oh,
And you
whoopee.
see, I have a picture of the actual ground cloud cedar into
Oh.
the air.
Yeah. Oh, they've just been doing that. The insurance companies.
She's like,
before
"That's
every
not new."
hailstorm forever.
It's
Like
brand
that's
new.
nothing.
I love that she's not saying that that's
Conspiracy
new.
Yeah,
She's like, "But
where's
thing
the
is, now
oversight?
What's crazy?
We're all
is
working
when
together.
Like I've seen several of these airplanes. They go up, they fly an entire square. It's a square, not even a circle, a square of these chemtrails around the city. And it's cloudy before, and then by the end of like a couple hours, it just dissipates within that square.
Totally. The other day it clearly said surrender Dorothy.
Right. I saw that. Let me pull up also Crypto Alchemist Bernie. Make sure you guys are watching Bernie's channel. He's making sure that the rest of you are, but subscribe to the Bernie streams and go to the lives. And we're gonna do an APEC thing pretty soon, I was thinking. So let's get that going
Yes,
with Tim.
sir. It will
Oh
be
my god,
awesome.
exciting. The syncbook.com. If you like David Plate and you want to get some of his videos, make sure you go to the syncbook.com, click on videos at the top there. Go down underneath the awesome Hindsight is 2020 documentary, but I think you should watch it. And then click on Syncflix when you're done with that, because then you can see all of David's new things. He's got a bazillion amazing synchronized movies to soundtracks. So if you like to listen to music, you like to watch movies, but you really want to get into synchronicity and esoterics, this is the way to deconstruct a movie and see what it's really about. And you get a lot out of it. And this is his newest synchronicity work, 711 Ocean Drive and Tulsa, with Lana Del Rey's new album, Did You Know That There's a Tunnel Under Ocean Boulevard? Which, I mean, great name for an album.
Yeah, I'll try and just like really quickly, if I can, just say like, so this album is written for her ex who lives in Tulsa. They had a long distance relationship. She's like, it looks like she's maybe marrying somebody else. So this is like a love album for somebody who she's no longer with. It's also got Diary of a Teenage, teenage girl, which she references in the album because of its I think in part because of
Wow, the symmetry is
R.
amazing.
Crumb's wife. But yeah, so basically like there's symbolism that's playing out that relates. If you're an actual Lana fan, you'll probably get more out of this if you actually know what is being spoken to. But yeah, no, but it's I'd like to point out the art in the opening paragraph up above here. So like if you scroll up a little bit, Andreas, So like here where it says it has highlighted, it says art by David Charles Plate. So if you click on that, can you do that? Do you see it above
Art
Sorry Cassandra towards the end?
David Charles Plate right here.
Yeah.
on that
See
one?
the art, not Sorry Cassandra, but
Click on the word art.
yeah,
Oh,
the word art.
If
I
you
know
click
it's
on the
kind of
word art-
it's hidden.
If you
So I'm
pull
sharing
the book
it.
on the left, it'll open the shelf.
Do you have like a
Right.
little pie symbol on the bottom right corner too?
God.
Right. Well, my computer's having issues, so anything would be helpful. So if you click on any of these pieces, I work in a print shop doing these are like large G clay, like on they're fancy. It's fancy paper. It's fancy printer. These are collages that I did years ago, but I think they still hold up. So
Oh my God,
anyway,
amazing.
just putting that out there. They're there.
I've actually got one behind me there, which I'll pull out at some point. I'm supposed to bring over to David's house so he can help me stretch it over, or put it into some kind of canvas.
You have that wicked of artwork and you don't have it stretched up? Come on.
Well, it's because the only one who knows to do it right is David. David's the guy for stretching paintings and canvases and putting things in frames.
I'm a framer and canvas stretcher. Yeah,
dude, I got framed by David. Okay, so then syncbook.com. I'm sorry, Cassandra misunderstood everything predicts 9/11. If you really want to get into some of the really interesting stuff about 9/11, way deeper than loose change, and you want to tie it to some other buildings that were destroyed, such as the fire, which hotel fire?
Well, there's two.
Wilshire.
There's the wine what is it? Weinkauf Hotel in the early 1900s, and the MGM Grand in 1980. And so it's basically the idea is that there's kind of I was speaking to it earlier, like the idea that there's like a template behind 9/11 that we see repeated in these different places. So I just basically found a thread. So it's almost like reading a book, some of this movie, you know.
Right. This is a really amazing thing, and I highly recommend, invite you to check out Sorry Cassandra Misunderstood. Everything.
My recommendation to people would be to, like, if you scroll down and you're looking at the movies and albums, if there's movies that you really have a connection to, that you really are familiar with, and especially if there's an album that you're also familiar with, it doesn't have to be, that would be my recommendation, is just to, if something really jumps out at you, to just watch it. And if you can, on Twitter or whatever, just let me know like what your experience was, because I love that. Anyway.
Yeah. Dude, for sure. And then go to the Synchronous on Twitter. You can check out Eddie's amazing work. He's got also the Facebook group, which I'm blocked out of Facebook for a while until politics calms down.
You're still blocked out of Facebook.
Whatever's going on, man. Whatever's going on must not be done yet. They don't want us publishing.
Well, we're live on 2 of my Facebooks. Maybe I should give you one of mine.
That's sweet. I appreciate it. I could identify as Bernie, but make sure you go to Synchronous on Twitter, because that's an amazing place to get a lot of data.
I self-identify as a man-bear unicorn. So
join us.
We need more contributors. I have been posting most of those observations, but we need conspiracies, sync material, personal experience, anything. Just come on and join and post. And
also, Alex's crypto cubrology. If you want to know the deets about the numbers, my man Alex knows it. He'll tell you, like, that's actually this many days between this and that, and he'll be able to tie it together into some pretty amazing ways. A lot of this stuff is just, it's just right there, data that you can connect, but you probably wouldn't. So yeah, I love crypto cubrology, and make sure you're subscribed and check out all the things he's finding out. He sees what's going on.
Thanks. There's that Jack thing.
Oh yeah, and then also, whenever I meet a strange man who knows his moon and rising sign, Megan says she knows he's been run through. I just wanted to make sure that you all heard that.
Hey, it's not always women that introduce men to astrology. That's such a generalization.
No, I prefaced that point to women just say shit to try to piss you off sometimes.
Right, thank you. Okay.
And then I said, but sometimes a broken clock can be right twice a day if it just stops moving.
Oh, thank you. Okay, see, context is important. Yeah.
Broken
clock.
I set
my clock 4:20 twice a day. It works like a charm.
Well, I love you all. Thank you for putting up with us, and we'll see you next time and probably tomorrow. Take care. Peace.
See ya.
Hello. Welcome to the Exators.